What's up? Hey, everybody, we're back. All right. Analysis stream. Let me see if I can centralize the board. Centralization is very important, boys and girls. So we want to centralize the board. How can I centralize this board? Video capture device, new window, other new window, lock, not lock. Yeah, that's better. Since we're not playing, since the clock doesn't matter, that will do for our purposes, I think. All right. What's up, Astrobate? Nice to see you. So, Thursday, back to regular scheduled analysis stream. Tomorrow, I'll be coming by maybe around 1 p.m. to play some Blitz. 1 o'clock Blitz stream. Friday. Let's say 1 o'clock Blitz stream tomorrow for 2 hours. All right, 1 p.m. CEST tomorrow. So I've got a game from Astrobate. We've got Yefim Geller versus Lou Abramovich. That's Lev. Where W's sound like V's in this language. I don't know. Pulugievs. So W is V. How does that work? Is that German? That's the German spelling. Volkswagen. Volkswagen. Mr. Slow works at Volkswagen. All right. So I've got Geller versus Abramovich, Plugievsky, and Sun Prism gave me a game, and we got Mule Skinner. Is that it? 4 games? We, Ubatis? No. Alright, so 4 games for now, but we'll probably get more. This is just the beginning. So congratulations to Anish Giri for winning the FIDE Uzbekistan Cup. No, for winning the FIDE, Grand Swiss. That's a hell of a tournament. I mean, like, 200, 2,600. I don't know how many players there was. It's like Trump says 300 million people died in the U.S. There's like 200 million players. There's 300 million players in the FIDE Grand Swiss, and Giri won it. So that's not bad. 300 million, 2600s and above. Tough tournament to win. Credit to Anish Giri. But he's a really good player, very consistent. And he has been consistent for a long time. All right, so Astrobate, we're going to start with your game. Number 1, with the blacks. With the black pieces, yeah, now this guy with white, huh? V. Stanciu. Sounds kind of familiar. There was another Stanciu, I feel like. This wasn't a player who played in those 3-minute team tournaments, was it? I feel like there was another Stanciu. This is a Romanian name. Uh-oh. We got a special treat for you guys. Another Bodler. So welcome to the show, everybody. I'm International Master Sladgy. We are, we're just going over subscriber games. Don't forget to subscribe and support the stream if you can. Live. We're live here. Hello, we're live. How's my volume? Good. Top fans. Well, we got top fans on the case already. So, guys, we're gonna be leaving a week from now. In a week from now, I'm going back to the Democratic Republic of the United States. The Republic of the United States. No longer a democracy, so we'll just call it that from now on. It's no longer the United States of America. It's the Republic of the United States. The Republic of the Nazi United States. Alright, so we got... Maybe I should delete social media from my phone or something. We're going to... Yeah. Okay, Astrobate, you're black. Let's take a look. E4, C5. I'm going to the United States for 2 weeks. We're coming back to Urbanistan. I'm going to the Republic of the United States for 2 weeks. Then we come back to Urbanistan for like a week and a half. Let's see. This is travel season, boys and girls. Sledgy fall travel season. Okay, Republic of Trump for 2 weeks. Come home to Urbanistan. And then we've got, let's see, a week and a half till I go to Italia for the World Senior. So that means the World Senior starts on the 24th of October. So does that seem right? 2 weeks in the United States, a week till we go, 3 weeks, and then 3 weeks. It's like 6 weeks. Does that make sense? 5 weeks. So let's see. The World Senior starts in 5 weeks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. World Senior starts in less than 5 weeks, and we've got our World Senior 2025 50 plus. 5 weeks times 7, 35 days. So I have 30 days to go on the fundraiser. I think there might be slightly more, but I'm going to miss a lot of those days. We're going to be traveling between Urbanistan and the Republic of the United States. Okay, E4, C5. Is anybody here? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. E4, C5, knight C3, knight to C6. So it's knight C3, could be just a move order trick, or it could be an intention to play a really close Sicilian. After we play knight to C6, Astrobate, you need to be aware that if you intend to play the accelerated dragon, G6 is also a very important possibility. But if you play that, you have to watch out for D4. And you also have to watch out for H4. That was played against me by several players. Both of those moves are very dangerous. Knight C6 is the principled move. Another move you can play is E6, which I like. So knight C6. Now the biggest danger here, is really like this. If they play bishop B5, you should play knight to D4. And then they can play bishop C4 there. And then I like this A6 move that I was playing in a few games. Alright. But your opponent plays bishop C4 right away. And so now we have a kind of Bodler closed Sicilian hybrid. And this is a setup that's commonly played with black. What white is doing here is the Sergei Movsesian, Ivan Sokolov defense against the English with an extra tempo, basically. And so I think it's fairly apparent that there's some pressure on f7, so e6 makes a lot of sense. Astrobate prefers to play setups based on g6 because he plays accelerated dragon. So I'm surprised to see what he did here. Although it's not a bad move, and I've played this myself. Usually for Astrobate, I would expect you to be going e6 or g6, because g6 can be met by queen f3, but knight e5 there just wins the bishop pair. So either of those moves is fine. No, again, I think e6 is the most principled. But so knight f6, nothing's wrong with this move. He can't play e5. I'm not sure it would even be a good move if he could. And secondly, you're controlling the center, and you're threatening the fork trick now with knight takes e4. So somewhat surprised here to see the results, though. Yuri Krippel lost with white against Krasenkov. Sasanko drew. There's another Shkuro Yuri, who I think I played, and another game. And black scored 3.5 out of 4 in this position. All I can say is that, like, that's kind of a weird statistical anomaly. White should probably score maximum -1 or 50%. But so we're maybe threatening knight takes c4. I don't know. I would think knight f3 would make sense. Knight f3, knight takes e4, for example. No one has played that. Maybe we would transpose. We do transpose to a different line. The question is knight takes e4. But if you want to see something interesting, it's a 4 knights English in reverse. We're a tempo down. Bishop takes f7, king f7, knight takes e4. Black played d5. I mean e5, but there's also d5. I'm not sure which is the better move here for black. The computer agrees with d5. d5 is probably best. All right. So knight takes e4 is an option there, but white plays d3. This is the most solid move. Plus, white doesn't put the knight in front of the f pawn. The f pawn is an important component of a lot of closed Sicilians. So now Acerbate, he left these other games where black played e6 in all cases. I mean, e6 is the conventional move here, but it doesn't mean it's the only move. And I think your move is valid as well. I think g6 is okay. We're going to see this game transpose to some other games now after g6. I think e6 is the standard. And then we normally would see, I would expect people to play, I don't know, a3, knight on g to e2, maybe even f4, bishop g5, kind of a weird move. White doesn't want to trade that piece, so this is kind of a bluff. f4, you can hit him in the middle with d5. It becomes a good, I think this is a good Grand Prix for black. So maybe white should play just like bishop b3, for example, or even a3. Surprisingly, there's even some games with knight h3. That's a really strange move. Stefan Bucher. Okay, so this guy's a specialist in weird openings. The Bucher attack. Stefan Bucher's day off. Is anybody here? There he is, move 11. Probably knight a5 was overrated. No, I was suggesting the same idea to Acerbate a minute ago in a different game with same sort of position, but it was reverse colors. Yeah, knight a5 was overrated because we're pretty far behind in development. I think e5 will gain a solid space for white there too. Yeah, e5, knight a5 we don't have time. But knight a5 here, extreme chess moves. White can play e5. Yeah, I wouldn't trust knight a5 too much. I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't really like it. I agree, move 11. What's up? VIP. Oh my god. No way. Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel Live for democracy. Mr. 112. He's tipped $112. That's right. Take that, MAGA. The FCC can't pull me off the airwaves. Mr. 112 has donated 112, bringing us up to 2222. No relation to Bishop Desmond Tutu. 2222. Huge donation from Mr. 112. Maybe we're going to make the World Senior Fund after all. It was looking kind of bleak, but we still have 30 days to go. When I'm traveling, after I travel from Urbanistan to the Republican states of America, I might not be able to stream all the time. So I don't know how many days we're actually going to have of streams before I go to the World Senior. Oh, if you need more games, okay. Then here's a really excited Berlin endgame. I thought it said burrito. That's how bad my vision is now. Here's a really exciting burrito. Move 11 just get to the tier 1 sub to Tino CHXD 2005. Thank you, Move 11, for being a VIP and longtime supporter of the stream. But most of all, Mr. 112, thank you for supporting Global Chess Democracy. All right. So huge donation there. Thank you, sir. Sire. Knight f3 from white now. Very surprised to see that from your opponent. And you played g6. Again, Astrobate, like, knight takes c4 deserves consideration. Wait, I'm confused. I thought that white played d3, but no. It was knight f6. He didn't play d3. I said d3 because all the other guys played d3. Okay. Your opponent didn't play d3. They played knight f3. This, like, transposes to a different line. Now, you played g6, and then white plays knight to g5. So this is an unhinged maniac now. Unhinged maniac plays knight to g5. And we see that a lot in the classical double king pawn games. But what the unhinged maniacs don't understand is that this is not the fried liver. Black hasn't played e5. There's a pawn that can go in the way, disconnect the attack against f7. So the unhinged maniac. Okay, Shaki. Yeah, if you have a game, let me grab that. Grab him by the PGNs. So, what do I do with this game? Beatles return of written off Simul. Where the hell is the freaking share button? There. Study. Alright, it's in there. So, but anyway, we're back to game one. Thanks, Shaki. So we've got knight g5, now e6. We always want to mention that this possibility. How do you decide? You know what I mean? You're playing chess, whether it's a tournament game or the board game, whatever. How do we decide whether we'd rather play knight e5 or e6? Say we have a limited amount of time. Without going through brute force calculation, things get very complicated. If we play knight e5, I mean, bishop e3, c4, f4, I don't know what's going on here. But I think we have to make a differentiation between these moves, right? Knight e5 is like Astrobate, typical Astrobate, moving the same piece twice type of stuff. This cannot be classified as a constructive move for black. It is simply a move that attacks a piece, but it's also kind of going to be attacked in return. So at the end, you know, the net gain of this move may be like 0 or even worse. Whereas the other option here, obviously d5 is an option that appears to lose a pawn, clearly. That can be rejected rather quickly, but e6. What about this move, though? Is this a constructive move? Or is this a weakening of black's position? That's really the question. And, you know, I think the truth is it can be both. But it is a constructive move to a certain degree. We support our control of d5. We increase our control of d5. We support d5. And it's not just about blocking the attack against f7. So we also increase our control of the center and open up the mobility of our queen on this diagonal. So I think that when you look at it analytically from a sort of principle perspective, you have to argue that e6 is a more constructive move. It does weaken the structure a little bit, right? Okay, castled by white now. And then bishop g7. I like that you're not just chasing that knight for the sake of chasing it. Having said that, there's some argument for h6 because you can make him decide. He can put his knight on a bad square on the side of the board, or he can put his knight back on a square where it blocks his f-pawn, which is ostensibly his main plan. You know, that's White's main plan in the closed Sicilian. So I think even castling is inconsistent. I mean, White would really like to play f4 here. The problem is he's going to get lit up with d5 if he plays f4. The best way to meet a flank attack is to strike in the center. And f4 is more flank. This is like central, boom, you know, hit him in the center, body blow. Like Mike Tyson punch out. Like old school video games. Body blow. Remember that? Does anybody remember that? Body blow. It's just coming back to me now. So e6 castles. You could kick his knight. This is more principled. Again, more constructive. Rook e1. That's a move that's applicable. Again, it's like White is playing the fried liver or something, you know? The f pawn is supposed to advance. You're supposed to play for f5, and your rook is remaining on f1 in this closed type of line. So it's almost like the opponent doesn't understand the difference between an open kind of Italian game and the Sicilian. He's playing a closed Sicilian. He thinks he's playing like an open game. So he's in completely the wrong place. Castles, and then e5. But e5 doesn't really it doesn't really inconvenience us too much. You could even play, this is kind of extreme, but you could even play d5. I like knight e8. That's what Astrobate played, and it seems probably best. But you know, this is a move that it would be pretty crazy to temporarily sacrifice a piece. For example, d5, pawn takes, bishop takes f6, and we're going to get a piece back. Yeah, I mean, maybe this is actually good. I don't know. I mean, it's not bad for sure. If you take the time to calculate this variation, he's going to lose either the knight on g5 or the bishop on c4. You knocked out his central pawn. So the best he can do is sacrifice one of his pieces back. And, like, which way is he going to sacrifice it back? What good way does White have of sacrificing this piece back? Don't really see one, to be honest. I mean, maybe he can go for structure and say go here, takes, and then bishop takes c6, like that. Or, like Mr. Slow is saying, give one of the knights back with knight e4. It looks like it's literally a Budapest Gambit. It's the Budapest Gambit, yeah. After pawn takes, knight takes, our valuable dark square bishop is attacked. And you might say, well, yeah, this is kind of inconvenient because we have to put our bishop on e7 to protect c5. But maybe we don't. Maybe we could just go here where it stays in this nice diagonal. Because if knight takes c5, we have queen d4. Oops. Both of your pieces are attacked at the same time. So I think this is a very smooth way to play it. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if d5 is black's best move. Let's take a look. Knight e8 is better. The computer's looking at a different line, though. That's really weird. It wants to take with the queen on f6. Wow. Why? Why does it want to take with the queen on f6? d5, e takes f6. Why queen takes f6? But maybe it does make sense, you know? You just take with the queen. Why misplace your bishop when you can develop your queen? I guess I didn't like White sacking on d5 or something, but it's not that good. So anyway, Astrobate, this is a serious alternative. But your move is fine. And now, you see, this knight, it doesn't really interfere with our position too much. It's kind of tucked in there. It's going to recapture on d6. Probably we're going to take out the guy's center on the next move. Crunch. His own, you know, he's got to defend e5, which means probably playing f4. You even have knight takes e5, by the way. Okay, he goes back with knight f3, but I think that pawn is in trouble. So here you have to make a decision now. 3 options. Attacking with the pieces, though, it looks like white can defend with queen e2. It's tempting to play d5, and that's what Astrobate did. But the first rule is, like, you gotta, like, look at your opponent's rating and guesstimate his chances of knowing the en passant rule. Now, if the opponent is over 1700, there's like a 50% chance they know the en passant rule. If they're below 1700, I think there's only like a 30% chance that they know the en passant rule. So you can't count on them playing en passant when you play d5. I mean, this is a serious consideration. Even if you think like this is the best move and you expect them to play that, no, it's the percentage chance the opponent knows the en passant rule. Okay, d5 looks fine. Mr. Slow. It may be fine, but what remains is, I just want to make the point that if you play d5, that's one less way you have of undermining the pawn on e5. I mean, the thing about d6 that makes it special is that white can't defend e5. This move, it guarantees the destruction of e5. You know, your move, the d5, it also increases central control, but in a different way. You know, we're gaining control over e4 now, while leaving e5 temporarily under white's control. So it really, you know, it's a very, very different move. We play this, white kind of has to take on d6. So he takes on d6, but we have a very strong move coming up. Knight takes, hitting the bishop on c4, and then coming to f5 with a knight, which gives us very strong domination of the d4 square. So let's say here maybe d3. I don't know what else to suggest for white. And then now knight f5, or maybe just taking the bishop. There's a lot of possibilities. All right, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he would play like bishop e3. Maybe he doesn't allow us to take, and c4 doesn't trap it because of bishop a4. So, okay, let's say he goes bishop b3. Then what do? Do we play like b6, just chilling? Do we play knight f5? So anyway, I just want to make you guys think. You know, I'm not saying like one move is better than the other. This is a matter of stylistic consideration. There's another reason, Mr. Slow, why we might prefer d6 to d5, because it guarantees our knight gets off the back rank. One of the only things is our knight is on the back row. So if we force them to take and they take, our knight is no longer a problem. It's actually a very strong piece getting to f5, like Bobby Fischer, you know, whatever. Bobby Fischer, 4 pawns attack, overextension game. But yeah, it's a tough call. Astrobate played d5. His opponent knows the en passant rule. See, over 1700. What's up, Mr. Coffee? And now we take with the knight. And then bishop e3, as expected. So here we go. Now b6 is safer than b5. With b5, I think there's a small risk. Well, there are a couple of small risks. By advancing the pawns further, this pawn, you know, is now a little bit weaker. Play b6, the plan is just a modest sort of bishop b7, taking the long diagonal. With b5, we're going for more, but it's very telegraphic. You know, everybody knows what you're trying to do, including your opponent. You know, it's pretty obvious you're threatening c4, trapping their bishop. There's Noah's Ark trap. So they're going to play most likely d3. Now he doesn't, but he should probably play d3. I would play d3 because you stop the threat of c4 trapping a piece, but you also leave open the possibility of playing a4. So I think that if you have a4, that might be a useful move for white. That's why it's better than his move. He played a3, but that's passive. You know, on another note, like maybe a4 is possible. But if for example, b4, things could get kind of weird here. So, a lot more possibilities after b5. It's computer's on the fence. c4, b5, a5, b6, they're all good. It actually likes c4. Wow. Driving the bishop out. Were we going to trap it somehow? This is really extreme. Oh my god. Knight b8. It's good to be a computer. How many grandmasters would have played like c4, knight b8 here? Maybe a few. But I don't think the majority. There's going to be the stray grandmaster that finds this computer-like plan. That's a nice idea. Very calculation-based. Bishop takes c3, followed by b5. We can take the knight and play b5, trapping the bishop on a4. That's complete calculation. Okay, b5, a3, and now knight to d4. Knight to d4. There's no rush to play knight to d4, but it's strong. I would prefer to develop. Develop first. The threat is stronger than the execution, Asterbate. This is clearly very strong for black. If takes, pawn takes, knight e4. But I also think it's in white's interest to trade pieces, because he has less space. So he plays that, and now you take on f3 and you play bishop b7. But is it better to do it the other way? Again, the threat might be stronger than the execution. Asterbate takes on f3. Executions are very strong. Well, I mean, that's why, Republicans want to take, homeless people to the gas chamber. To set an example. But, why stop at lethal injection? c4 instead of knight d4 looks more direct. Well, it is, but what does it do? I think ultimately that's not the question. What's more direct? What's our concrete plan? What I like about this, though, what I like about knight d4 rather than c4, I like getting the bishop to the long diagonal. But what I like is getting the bishop to the long diagonal, playing knight d4, and then driving the c3 knight, driving the knight, forcing the knight to exchange on d4, taking with the c pawn, driving that knight back to somewhere like e2, and then cracking him open like an egg with d3. So I'm envisioning, this, say, something like this, and he would stop that from happening, wouldn't he? We'd have to kind of get lucky there. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to crack him open after knight takes, pawn takes, knight e2. We clear the diagonal, but we don't crack him open. Now it's not so easy, true. If we don't have knight c4, so the c4, okay. c4 might be better. He goes back to a2. But what do we do next? What do we do next? Plus, white has the option to play d3 himself. So that would be my question. Bishop b7 is the obvious suggestion. Say white, does d3, right? Logical. What's next? a5 and b4. Can we just do that when this d3 comes in? Because the d3 starts to disrupt us a little bit. He's maybe threatening to take on c4. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to decide. You have a lot of reasonable moves you could play. Move the queen, bring the rooks to the center, instead of bishop b7. So go with pawns immediately. There's a definite case for Mr. Slow here. b4 is coming pretty quick. This is coming very quickly. So let's say white plays like d3. go with the quick b4, you have that long diagonal. So white is in a bit of a quandary. Takes here, and now this. That might not work though, but it might work. I mean, this is getting very convoluted, but maybe we can win a piece with some weird variation like b3. So I think that Mr. Slow's line, it probably holds up. Uh-oh. I had an internet hiccup there. We're back. I think this probably works, Mr. Slow, and I think it's also consistent. Good afternoon, W.J. Loof. From the Soviet Socialist Republic of the United States. United Republics. No politics unless it's deemed appropriate. Yeah, I like it, Mr. So I think, okay, we should be back. Don't tell me we're down. I think we're back. I think we're back. Hopefully. Yeah. Don't worry, I live in Urbanistan. So, I mean, I'm used to... See, if you guys lived the last 15 years in Hungary, you would understand the importance of free speech. Because Orban has dismantled the public media sector here to the point where there is no, or very little, public media that can talk negatively of the government. And that's what we're going to see the Trump administration doing now. But, you know, so I'm not really surprised. I mean, this is all out of Orban's playbook. Trump is actually starting to use this stuff. All right. But, no, Mr. Slow consistently playing, you know, with the pawns there, I think that makes sense. If you're going to play c4, you go all the way with a5. White played a3, Acerbi played knight d4. This is also a good move, but the problem is, I think he should probably take, like I said, and try to trade pieces with knight e4. If you're really, you know, I don't know, you could consider taking and playing d3 and trying to split up his pawn structure. I think this is probably at the minimum. This also kills his bishop on c1, Acerbi. And if he goes the other way, then you can go here, smash his pawn structure. Okay, he doesn't do that. He plays this, right? Now, bishop b7. I think this is better than what you did. Because you're threatening to annihilate him in one move. When knight takes f3, if he has to take with the pawn, he's done. And he has no places to move his knight other than e5. Which looks shaky at best. Because I don't want to know what white's going to do after queen g5 or something. Maybe he's just lost. Probably he's just lost. Queen g5. So... right? So you could force him to take here and then you destroy him. I think bishop b7 is better. So after it takes, queen takes bishop b7, fine. But what's your next move? Let's say queen h3. You still have b4 maybe, Mr. Slow? You're still better no matter what he does. I agree. But I think he should make a sensible move. Queen h3. Probably best. The queen has this sort of geometric play against that knight on f5. Still black is much better. I mean, white does not have trouble with c2. But this is really bad. Like going to e3. It's a rather artificial move to attack the pawn on c5. But ultimately his queen can get attacked by knight f5. So what do? You defend both pawns. You could play queen b6. But you just play bishop d4. This is also good. Queen d3 in front of his pawn. And now queen h4. Wow. McCarthyism. Yeah, I gotta play my Red Dead Redemption. I started a new Red Dead Redemption campaign in honor of McCarthy. So, Rook F1. Now we're getting warmed up. C4, Queen E2, Knight F5. But nice move. This is a nice move because you actually, if you play Queen G5 right away, it doesn't quite work. White can play G3. We're a little slow there. You're probably still winning. I imagine you can win like slow methodology here with Queen H6. But why not play Knight F5 first? Exactly. Now he grabs this. Oh my God, Astrobate. Wow. What a spectacular move by Astrobate now. He uses the Knight G3, yeah. I was expecting the mundane, some kind of mundane move, but what? Oh, yeah, that's what it was. I was expecting this. No, I was expecting to do this and then sack on G3. You can do that. So on Queen G5, yeah, I mean, it's good too. I guess he has G4, huh? G4 is kind of a pain. Maybe it's a serious pain. Is this a serious pain? That can't be. It could be a serious pain. Imagine if Astrobate played Queen G5 and the guy has G4. Does this work? Does G4 really save white? That would be disturbing if that saves white. Oh no, it doesn't save white. Queen H4? Wow. Queen H4. Okay. It's made an 8. But still, cleaner. This is a beautiful idea. But what are we threatening again? Huh. So the moral of the story is that white doesn't have to take. Yeah, but he needs a square for his queen, and we're threatening Queen E4. That's really sick. So Queen D1 doesn't work. Or does it? Wow, dude, this is so weird. Queen D1, Queen E4, Queen F3. Knight E2 check, that's a beautiful line. And now on King H1, we have Queen takes F3 takes and Bishop takes F3. So that's cute. But he could play Queen E1. Now, where's our win against Queen E1? I mean, we're winning the exchange if we want to, but I don't think that's best. I want to know what we're doing against Queen E1. I'm afraid this might require some thought. Still Queen G4. I guess we still go to G4. White now has an annoying defense with Bishop takes C4. So Queen G4, Bishop takes C4. Knight. No, that's not a defense actually. Queen G4. It's funny. Yeah, that's cute. So now we do Queen G4. He would have found it. So he takes, and he can't stop the mate. Except for Queen F3. Or this. Yeah, beautiful win. Nice job, Astrobate. Great game. Okay, guys, we got the Geller Polugievsky, Mr. Slow Submission. What's up, Butterfly Hunter? I always call you Butterfly Hunter. It's funnier. Dragonflies. Who hunts dragonflies? Poor dragonflies. All right. Lightning Bug Hunter. Firefly. You could be Firefly Hunter. Whatever happened to Nedog, man? Laying low. So Lev. We're saying this in German now. This is Germanic Angol. Lev Abramovich Plugievsky. Latin Germanic spelling. Acer totally outclassed him. Yeah, I don't know why Osterbait's like 1500 and these people who are 1700 look like idiots compared to him. He's on another level when he gets it going. So we're going to see Geller versus Plugievsky. When is this from? 1961. Cool. So Geller, let me get a water, guys. Geller Plugievsky, I'm thinking they're the same generation. Was Geller older? No, I think they're about the same age, probably. Maybe Geller was older. I don't know. Geller might be older, but not by a lot. Both of them superstar Soviet grandmasters. Plugievsky has a book. I have too. Maybe you have it as well. I imagine Mr. So has a. When he wasn't donating to support my stream, he was building his chess library. Mr. So probably has Plugievsky book too. Plugievsky wrote a book about, basically all about the Sicilian. Is that Sicilian Labyrinth? Or something like that? I think it's Sicilian Labyrinth, no? Where he does all about his like analysis of the Najdorf. Alright. So e4, c5, knight f3, d6. Before he died in the 90s, Plugievsky, they had a tournament for him. Was it while he was still alive, I think? They had a tournament in honor of him that was like a Sicilian thematic tournament. I think I remember that tournament was played in like Argentina or something. Alright, so knight f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6. It's a Najdorf. This is a Najdorf chapter. Apparently Geller always played bishop e2. I mean, no, it's not true, though. I mean, we have seen examples of Geller playing bishop g5, no? Geller must have played bishop g5 as well, but he seemed to like... Grandmaster Preparation. Oh. Wait, Grandmaster Preparation and Sicilian Labyrinth. Oh, they're Grandmaster Performance. They're different books. Alright. Now I'm confused. We'll check the storage unit, but I'm going back to my storage unit next week. I have one of them at least. I'm not sure if I have both. No, that was the Boleslavsky variation. Unleash. That was against knight to c6. Knight c6 puts more direct pressure on the center. So I guess with a6 maybe we have a little more leeway in playing this move. And then black plays e5. White plays knight b3. You know, this is a modern move that's, speaking of unambitious, very safe way of playing against the Najdorf. But I think it's better if you play bishop e3 and knight f3, probably, when this bishop has the option to go to some more aggressive squares sometimes. Here, main line, bishop e7. As we mentioned, like in last week's, a lot of players prefer to go here. But, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, if there's a knight on f3, you can go to g5. I don't know what's the deal. with bishop e6 versus bishop e7. Bishop e7 is played in way more games and black has a better score. Is there some problem with this? Something with f4 immediately. Okay, so maybe black isn't really set up as well to deal with f4, f5, and therefore it's better to play bishop e7, castle, castle, because if f4 now, obviously we don't have to put our bishop on e6. I guess the bottom line is that, because I'm speaking as a non-expert on the Najdorf, black has more options in terms of where to put the pieces. I mean, obviously stuff like b6, bishop b7, or b5, bishop b7 can be played, where black can put pressure on the pawn on e4. So after castles, bishop e3 is the main move. It's also possible to play king h1. See, b6 is the main move there. Interesting. So the bishop goes to a different diagonal to put pressure on e4. It doesn't go to e6. The problem with b5 is that you get undermined with a4, and that's why they're playing b6 rather than b5. So bishop e3, and now we've seen a bunch of games with bishop e6. That was Geller versus Ivkov, and Geller versus Najdorf, right? But queen c7, this exact position, is a rare move. But why should it be a rare move? Could possibly be bad about queen c7. I mean, maybe a4. I mean, why are there 2,000 games with bishop e6 and only 60 games with queen c7, and only 60 games with knight d7? It's almost as if there's something concretely wrong with this move. Karpov versus Tomasz Girogadze. Yeah, it looks like everybody plays a4. And that may be somehow advantageous for white. I'm not really sure I understand. a4, bishop e6 anyway. a5, knight on bd7, and now knight to d5. How bad is this for black? It doesn't look so bad. Knight takes d5, e takes d5. Wow, there's only correspondence games? No. Bishop f5. So it's playable for black. It's interesting, though, that the Plugievsky, who's one of the greatest experts on Najdorf, would specifically make this move rather than play bishop e6. I mean, maybe he knew those other games. I don't remember the dates exactly when these various games were played, but I think this is a deliberate decision on Plugievsky's part, and I think that's worth noting. So now white doesn't do the standard plans that we've seen from him after queen c7. The standard plan is f4, king h1, f5 if bishop e6, maybe something like queen e1. Now a completely different move that is rarely encountered here. Queen d2. Karpov would play this in 1983. And Alonso. Wow, Alonso played it in 84. Zapata's a nice guy. I played him a few times. He was playing in the World Senior last year. And he's a good player on the white side of Sicilian, especially. He beat me twice. But getting up there, Colombian Grandmaster. I think he's living in the States now. I'm not 100% sure, but anyway, that's funny. 83 Karpov played it. 84 Zapata played it. Queen d2 after Geller. So Karpov, who obviously knew Geller's games, there's no other names here. There's no other game. I mean, Karpov deliberately played this in 1983. And after Geller. So now bishop e6. This is not forced. So, excuse me, what about this alternative? Obvious setup for black. Here, knight bd7. We're going to try to put pressure on the e4 pawn. A very young Kish Matulin in 2003 had this position with black in one. Yeah, you don't want to play b5 and give white that chance to play a4. Although now, you know, to be honest, with the queen on d2, it makes you wonder about b5. Because this guy is hanging with tempo on the queen. You know, you play b5, I play a4, you play b4, I play knight d5, I'm on your queen. Knight takes c5, it doesn't matter. Chernyshek won a game here with white. This is an old game. I don't know. Is this so bad for black? Computer doesn't like it. Rook fc1. f5, f3. White is seriously better, apparently. Interesting. I think it takes experience to know that. That's a good game by Chernyshek, who was very young at that point, 2200. So queen d2, bishop e6. So what do you guys think the best move for black is here? People have even played rook e8. That's actually very passive looking. Black's just saying, like, I can do what I want. You know, what are you going to do? a4, Karpov plays a4. Now black plays b6. What are you going to do? Like, fire me? Cancel me from the network? Bosko Stoica, 1983. So, and white's just kind of playing like a... It's, yeah, f3 is lame. I don't know if I even want to play f3. I would prefer not to play f3. Anyways, alright. So, black plays bishop e6. Now, that gives us this idea. Will Geller go back to playing f4? Now that he's chosen a different sort of setup, where what's he trying to do? Pressure here, connect his rooks. What exactly is the idea? Just to be able to play rook c1? Like, that's valuable, isn't it? What Chernyshek did in that game that we saw briefly after b5, a4, knight to d5. White was able to play for rook c1 with his rooks connected very quickly, thanks to this queen d2. It's interesting. But we're going to see now. See, Geller doesn't go for a4. Where most other people go for a4. And I would have probably played a4. But this move also makes sense. There's only one game where this has happened. Some sort of correspondence game. I think that Geller likes queen transfers using the diagonal there in from what I've seen. I mean, maybe he's planning on playing like bishop f3, queen f2. Or maybe just rook to d1. Maybe rook a d1. So here in the correspondence game from 2009, Black played this. I'm going to guess the computer likes that move the best. Pablo Kelly. So, but Puglievsky plays the concrete move, you know, taking. Now White's what's the problem with taking? I don't know. I mean, I would think that Black would be happy to play knight c6 to try to cover the d4 square and e5. So he takes on f4. I don't know which way White's going to take back. Maybe with the bishop, but either way, Black wants to put a knight on e5. It's hard to say this is a mistake, but Black, it's a very standard move in the Scheveningen, for example. But Black does give up control of d4. And that's relevant for a lot of reasons, but I think the most important one is this. This happens in the Sicilian. When I'm Black a lot, I'm very worried about that happening. You know, the knight comes back to d4. You kind of forget about it. It's on b3. It's not hurting anybody. And now it's coming back to d4 where it's very menacing. It can go to f5. I think this is the right move because honestly, this diagonal is rather important, and I don't think White's going to win this pawn on d6. And this keeps his rook open on the f-file. Now knight on bd7. I was wondering if Black would play knight c6. Just to keep an eye on the d4 square. There's another rather unusual idea I want to point out, but this, if you played knight c6, you could reserve the other parking space for the knight on d7. You could have a situation where you trade off White's knight on d4 and then put another knight on e5. So I think this move makes a lot of sense. Is this square relevant? You know, could there be some sort of here where we use this square b6 somehow to our advantage for White? I mean, that's something to think about, but that's also, you know, part of the reason why we have this parking space on d7. Knight c6 right into d5, okay. But I mean, you can't take with the knight because you lose a piece, but many times in the Najdorf, right, you're okay with trading this bishop. That's part of the deal. So bishop takes d5, absolutely. This is absolutely, yeah. Now you have to lose time. But that's a super knight. So it's a typical Scheveningen type of situation where you might think like White is automatically better, but I'm not that certain. There's this, and that's protected by these two pieces, and there's a trash compactor effect here going on with c5. Yes, very important idea of knight d4, knight f5, and Black, you know, he might have to play like g6 to stop it somehow. But there's no substitute for concrete calculation. If White is given a few moves here, it looks like indeed Black is in a lot of trouble. But I'm not sure how bad it is if we have time to get all hands on deck. So say here, We're going to guard. We're going to get the knight off of f6. And we're going to plan on playing g6. So the thing is, like, you go here, you walk into this, too. White will have to reinforce c4 before he can play knight d4. So something like, I don't know, rook c1. And now you've got problems with bishop g5. Which is the other reason why I wanted to put that f knight on d7, because it has a lot of cases where it will do this. And I've had games like this with so many people, you know. Like Nefedov, we've had a lot of games like this. This final position is equal or slightly better for black, but let's see if white has better. No, this is correct. It looks correct. The engine thinks it's equal after knight e5. So there is no refutation of knight to c6. It's a matter of taste. But I mean, Polyugevsky he's a Najdorf player. You know, he's not like me. I'm not a Najdorf player. I've played the classical Sicilian a lot. I'm much more comfortable putting my knight on c6. You know, but it cuts this out. It cuts out this knight d4 thing. That's what happens next, see? This is what bothered me, Mr. Slow, about the position. That's why I didn't want to play knight on bd7. Because if you play this guy here, you can do the other knight to there, and then meet knight d4 with knight takes knight. And after knight takes knight, black is okay. This is a huge exchange of pieces that frees black's game. So I think this is a really important moment. You know, the computer said this is still equal for black, but I feel, yeah, I also don't like this. It's not about the bishop getting taken necessarily. But if you sit there and you look at the position, you say, like, well, what the hell are you going to do? How are you going to get rid of that knight? Sometimes I sit there on the black side of the Sicilian and I'm thinking, like, whatever. I mean, you know, go to the fifth move, but go here. Now here, knight on d4 can be removed by e5, right? And that happens. So next move. But when the knight comes back, now how are you going to get rid of it? There's no e-pawn. There's no c-pawn. They're both traded off. So it's just parked there on d4, and there's no way to trade it off. You can't even play knight e6 because you have a bishop on e6. So knight c6 is like literally the only way to eliminate that piece on d4. Unless you can maneuver your bishop to b6 or something, it's really, really problematic. Okay, he can go knight e5, knight c6. Maybe, maybe I even know this game. We're going to have to do this anyway. He's going to have to at some point go like knight e5, knight c6 to trade that off. Let's see what happened. Knight e5 right away. Wow. I didn't expect Keller to do that right away. As I said before, the threat is stronger than the execution. But at the end of the day, Geller must have decided that he has no good move to like improve his position here. He also might have decided that g6 was some sort of threat, though. I would have expected rook af1. But, I mean, you don't really necessarily have a threat here for white. Unless you're like Tal. You're going to sacrifice 2 exchanges or something, right? The next series is on Tal. You're with me, allowing knight back to d4. I was surprised he went knight f5 right away. And if I was black, I would probably give some serious thought to taking that. You know, this is a game where it's like, lately I've been doing a lot of lessons where I try to teach people about color complexes. How important it is to think about the game in terms of color complex. Look, chess, it's not like there's 4 colors, you know. It's not like 4-card poker deck or something. There's only 2 colors. It's easy, you know, there's white squares and black squares. Or light squares and dark squares, whatever, you know, is politically correct. And so, there's only 2 color complexes to think about. It's not that hard. So if it's this exchange, it's the white squares that black is weak on. But if we go the other way and we let white take here, it's going to be the other square. So Black is weak on the dark squares here. You're going to see and have to look for weaknesses on these, on this color complex. And here it's the opposite. So on bishop takes f5, the question is, do we have... How serious chances do we have of exploiting these white squares versus dark squares? How easy is it for white to attack on, the two color complexes? I would think this isn't that bad for black. I mean, does he want to take with the pawn? Like a Philidor? This is a definite possibility that should not be ruled out. It would in essence correct white's pawn structure. And d5 was really weak. I think that might be a very serious consideration. Because you just can't allow this to happen. So the problem with taking on f5 might be the e takes. And it's hard for black to play after that. So rook c8. See, I think white could take here and be slightly better. But he doesn't want to settle. So he plays this. Well, the bishop can't move anyway, so white still has only two options. Give him the dark square bishop, give him the light square bishop. Rook fe8, this is a standard move. Look at all these pieces grouped over here. I would say white's pretty close to some sort of serious threat on the king's side. You really have to watch even knight takes g7. So we're expecting white to see bishop f8 coming and maybe play... And we're really close to making this work, honestly. But there's a point, right? Knight g7, king g7, rook f6, bishop f6, bishop h6 check. Now if you go back and I take... Well, I mean, maybe white has enough compensation for the sacrifice exchange. I'm not sure. But I guess there you have to seriously consider the king g6. Is that a legitimate variation? Tal would be excited by this. This looks pretty good. Bishop h5, king h5, rook takes f6, threatening queen g5 mate. Wow, that's winning. Wow. So he has to go back. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter because of mate. Okay, yeah, I could just go here. Well, it protects f6, but it doesn't help. So knight g7, king g7, rook f6. The hell is going on here? Well, this is it. I mean, you have to take, check, back, and takes. But is it enough? The computer evaluates this position as slightly better for white. I wonder, does he mention this line, knight takes g7? His analysis? I would think it's very likely he analyzed this and then concluded it was unclear. I honestly don't know. The computer says white is a tiny bit better. I wasn't sure if he wasn't a tiny bit worse. I think it'd be very hard to come up with a concrete evaluation of this position. I think Hulugievsky and Geller especially, wasn't sure. So you do this fancy sacrifice to get, an equal position, basically. But, it might be your only chance to exploit this. But he plays this building up instead. But obviously now in bishop f8, guarding g7. So it looks hard to break through now. Very, very solid. I just want to see what the computer says there. Yeah, knight g7. You have to check the book, Mr. Slow. This is a tough position. I mean, you know, there are books written about like strategic decision making and stuff. Do you cash in your chips here one way or the other? Or do you see what's behind door number 3? Letting that bishop slip back to f8, you may not get another chance to do a combination or something. So, because check out his next move. Bishop d3. I mean, that's nice. But at the end of the day, this is, in a way, it's like a defensive move. Aside from the fact that it allows the queen to move over laterally, as I said before, Geller's favorite maneuver is like maneuvering the queen sideways to use the g1, a7 diagonal. But now I guess Pugliese has to be kind of concerned because he hasn't managed to change any pieces. You know, he could have taken on f5. He can still take on f5. This is a serious consideration. White can take back either way. And then we probably have to go back because there's very dangerous exchange sacks on f6. But it doesn't seem like it breaks the pressure completely. As I mentioned before, this is also a possibility. I'm not so sure about that. So Pugliese doesn't want to concede, you know, his bishop pair. He plays knight fd7. How about like another move here, guys? Can we play on the queen side? I mean, maybe it's time for something like b5 to try to generate some pressure. I don't know. Does white have a concrete threat here? Are we threatening any sort of knight g7s? It doesn't seem like white has a concrete threat. The problem is the text move. You know, this move retreats the knight away from the king's side. Arsenal fan, knight h6 itself is not a threat. It's just a one-move check. You know, I don't think that's a threat. He checks you, you don't have to take it. You know, if black takes it, then the structure would be damaged. But if knight h6 check king h8, and what does white do? He doesn't seem to have any follow-up, you know. Not yet, at least. Maybe in the future there will be. I don't think knight h6 is necessarily a threat. Or what? Knight g7, but knight g7 is bishop g7. Again, I don't know if you saw the last line that we looked at, but that's kind of similar. So he did mention knight takes g7 before. Now, I don't know. You know, it doesn't seem as good now. I mean, maybe it would boil down to something similar. My argument would be that I don't think that white has a concrete threat. Maybe knight d5. Now we sort of guard c2. So what's the idea with the last move? Think about it. Bishop d4 here, bishop d3. What does this do? It guards c2. And it allows our queen to sneak over here. But what else does it do? Maybe it allows us to play knight d5. Maybe this is the point. That we can play knight to d5 sometimes. Because the bishop on d3 guards the c2 pawn. I mean, that could be serious. If we can go into d5 and take out one of his defenders, one of these, right? We plonk a queenside piece, if you will. If we can cancel one of, you know, the more liberal shows on the left, then, no, I'm sorry, getting confused. If we can go knight d5, we can cancel one of those pieces on the king side, and then our attack might actually really be, maybe we'll have a threat if we eliminate one of these pieces. Even if it requires sacrificing a pawn or something. You know, so imagine black just like did nothing, or let's just say b5, right? Here, now black has to take that, but which way? You know, with a knight, say with a knight, you know, now these pieces look like, if you ask me if white has a threat, it would be more likely. Even so, I'm not sure. Let's say bishop takes d5. Does white have a threat here? It feels like there should be. We're getting close. Maybe now, you know, you're talking like knight d3. What do we do? Knight h6 check. Is that working now? You know, still hanging in there, but you almost have it working now. So anyway, I think that's like a kind of what's going on, you know. But this to me feels a little bit weird because you're retreating one of those pieces in front of your king, and now rook h4. This looks more like yeah, Damljanovic, Velimirovic, I mean. There is also the X-ray against h7. So this is his, you know, solution. Now we have a clear shot on g7. Jesus. Somebody didn't have enough coffee that day. I don't know if Lugaski drank coffee, but he might need some. We have a clear shot on g7. This almost looks like there could be a tactic. This problem is the rook is hanging. So rook h3. Now the other knight replaces it at e5. And now queen d1. That's a funny move, queen d1. Isn't it? Kind of a funny move. I mean, you could go to g5, up front and personal. But he prefers like the more discreet queen d1. Threatening queen h5. Black ignores the threat and plays b5, really asking for it. And now queen h5, threatening mate in 1, very subtly. Black plays h6. Now ask me if there's a threat. I'd be kind of surprised if there wasn't. Yeah, now knight d5. Why not knight d5 now? He plays it on the next move. Knight d5, bishop d5. Pawn d5. It's not enough. It's amazing how tough black's position is to crack. Rook g3. And now black plays king h7. This is extremely dangerous. So now I ask again, Arsenal fan or whoever, do we have a threat? Does white have a threat now? Bishop takes e5. Knight takes h6 check. Knight takes g7. I mean, there is like h4. We could just play h4, but then we have to move the queen to really have any threats after that. Bishop takes e5. You know, there's a double exchange sack. Bishop e5. Pawn takes e5. Rook takes g6. You know, I'm still not sold on this, where our threat is. One interesting idea would be to actually pull the bishop back to e3 now. Can I look at that on the last move? So we induced black to play h6. And if we went back here now, I mean, black can always do this. And this. And there's some tactics like this, you know, sometimes. But I don't know if that's enough. So I'm curious about this position, first of all. Bishop e3. It's something special. It's a mistake. So the computer actually likes knight d5. This is what Arsenal suggested. Knight d5, bishop d5. Okay, yeah, what's the point? Knight d3. So you take everything. So the engine likes this. Because we're now threatening maybe a double sacrifice on g7. Or maybe just sack on g7 and take on h6. If knight e5. It kind of looks like black's holding on. Damn, apparently not. Unbelievable. Rook g3, and there's no way to defend black's position. That's insane. Wow, that's so insane. Rook g3. And move the king. Jesus Christ. So what's the point? Rook g6. Knight g6. Takes. What the heck? Oh, so just f7. You're overloading f7. Wow. That's not obvious at all, actually. That's not obvious. And it's very interesting. You know, I think it's very hard to see this. I mean, anybody could play knight to d5. Queen takes what? Death Soul Panther? Queen takes g1? Are you like, going ahead on us here? There's a very neat idea. Black's best defense is rook e5. Just going down an exchange. Wow. So what if he doesn't take? You know, what if he just sits there? What is white threatening? Rook g3 again. It's unbelievable. Black has no way to defend after knight d5. So this is actually a slight mistake. King h7 and now knight to d5. But we get a very, very similar position. Bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5, knight takes d3, c takes d3. And now black faces the threat of extinction. But we couldn't play bishop takes e5 now. Again, we have to ask the question, what is our threat? Knight takes h6 and rook f6 or something? That's never going to work. What is our threat again here? What are we threatening? I still don't quite see it. I mean, f7 is protected by the queen. What is white threatening? It's all fun and games, you know. Queen takes g1. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. Queen takes g6. Queen takes g1. Thanks for the suggestion. I don't understand what white is threatening here. Maybe just a slow rook f3. Is that it? You just build up on against f7? We could just put the rook on f3 and then threaten to play knight takes whatever, and rook takes f7. So it's kind of hard for black to defend f7. Like knight h8 is one of the only ways to defend f7. If white's to move in this position, what would you play? Is there another move, maybe? A tricky move, knight h4. Simply knight h4. There's a problem, though. You know, if we leave the back rank, black has checks. You play knight h4, rook f7, black has queen down to c1 check. It's not so easy to deal with that. We go here. If it was white's move, let's just say a5. Knight h4, rook f7, queen c1 check. Now this isn't clear. So I mean, Plugieski's sitting there thinking that he's holding. Everything's okay. He's got to be. So black just plays queen b7. This is like, oh, everything's okay. I live in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, and PBS hasn't been canceled, you know? It attacks d5, but we lose the plot. It also allows rook c7 to protect f7. That's, I think, an important point of queen b7. Though it's not an exciting move to play. White now plays king h1. So he doesn't have a bust, and wow. I'm getting super confused. So you're just going to take on g7, bishop g7. Shit. Queen d5, bishop g7. That's a cute tactical point that would destroy black's position. So Plugievski, again, living in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, plays rook to c2. But I mean, again, I ask you, does white have a threat? This is always... Is bishop takes g7 a possibility after queen b7? Always a possibility. So black would have to take it. You know, the problem, I think, arises... Where does it arise? Well, you know, you have an interesting chance here. This is a good question. This is a legit question. Do we have knight h6, for example? This looks like it could be a legitimate question. Queen a7 check. King h1. There's all hell could break loose after queen f2. Queen f2, knight g4 check. So that's cancelled, along with PBS. So knight takes, bishop takes h6. f7 is protected, but white has rook h3. That's my point. Ultimately looks kind of dangerous, but there's a problem. There's a problem. Officer, manager. There's also rook h8. Jeez. That's an annoying move, isn't it? Manager. Rook h8. Queen takes check. King G8, and your rook's protected. Yeah. Manager. Alright, that doesn't work, yeah. Rook H8 is probably something to do with it. King H1 avoids that. Fate. Just keep thinking there's another move order. So after rook to C2. We still don't have a tactic. Again, knight G7, bishop G7, rook here. That doesn't work. Bishop G7, king G7, doesn't work. Nothing seems to work. But he set him up for this. You have to check, you know, he probably didn't see the backward move. Losing the plot, I mean, if you miss the backward move, knight E3 is strong. That's understandable. Problem is, what can black do? He's kind of tied down. So queen takes D5. Still bishop G7. A weird idea. Queen takes D5, bishop takes G7. Bishop G7, queen takes... Sorry, we don't have two moves. Queen takes F5. Queen takes... Queen takes F5, queen takes F5, bishop takes G7. Queen takes F7. Yeah. Alright, but I don't know. I don't see what white is threatening directly. Still. But he plays rook C2. So this is definitely a mistake. Blunder. Knight E3. How bad is it? Black tries to stay active, so he plays rook D2. And so we were able to attack from a different angle with knight to G4 now. But also important is that this is defended. Because that was being defended by a magic tactic. You know, it's kind of awkward. Obviously, the highlight of this game is the fact that black has a bad bishop. And your pawns are on white squares. And if you want to think of it as like a positional game, where white is better because he's effectively kind of like up a piece, I think there's an aspect of that that needs to be appreciated. But it does it feels like a clear, you know, game where black underestimated the danger right up until the end. Queen D7 now. Protecting the F5 square, presumably. What does he do? He blunders like queen takes H6 check. This was never really a possibility, was it? Maybe it is. You know, you do it right away. When does... Okay. So it's only a possibility starting now. Starting now, we have, you know, windmill ideas with queen H6, knight F6 check. That could be very dangerous. For the first time. Move king anyone. There's also rook F3. You know, going back to pressure on F7. Well, I'm going to make a radical suggestion here. What happens if king G8? Do we just smash him? We just smash him. Ooh. That's brutal. Boom. It doesn't work, does it? Takes, check, takes, check. Bishop G7, check. I think that works. But maybe not. It's still not over. Doesn't look good for black. Doesn't look good. I think we're losing, but it's not immediate. Yeah, that's pretty strong. Okay, king g8 doesn't hold. But I'm still not certain we have a clear threat. So he plays queen d7. What about taking this pawn? Stupid suggestion. If I have nothing else, I'm going to do that. Check, takes, check. King h8. That's nothing. So why not take the pawn? Always take. Come on, guys, show me the refutation. Back rank. Black has back rank threats. Bishop's hanging. Where's our threat? What am I missing? Rook takes f7? No. Back rank mate. No, there's bishop g1. Oh, God. What am I missing? Rook takes d3. All right. Thank you. That's why we need you guys here. The d3 pawn is protected. The d5 pawn is protected. All right. I forgot it was protected. You guys thought it was a trick question. King Marcher realized I'm an idiot, and so black doesn't have an obvious move. I guess rook here. When in doubt, double rooks. And the sickest thing is, like, this move isn't even a threat. It's unbelievable. Even that's not a threat in the current position. You just double your rooks on the 7th and have nothing. So he plays queen d7, but this walks into the windmill possibility of queen takes and knight f6 check. h4. And that eliminates all the back ranks, which is really nice. No more back rank. Black's just sort of spatially paralyzed. I'm thinking about a move between f7 and f5. And it's not f6. No, you can't help but wondering, when Puglievsky plays queen d7, is this a legit idea? F5 to try to deflect white off of the back rank. But even there, I mean, there would be bishop g1 possibilities. Well, queen h6 isn't necessarily crushing, because we're going to see stuff like queen h6. I'm assuming king g8 is not a big deal. Let's say takes, check, king h8. Now what do you do? If you take on e8, black can interpose. So you have to take the queen, and then black has to move bishop g7. So actually, it's not clear. This doesn't look clearly crushing. Yet. Black plays queen e7 now, attacking h4. And if you play, well, I don't know, rook h3, pretty obvious move. That's got to be what Puglievsky expected. But rook h3 would be good for black. It would drive the rook to a less active square. The only other move that maybe white could play is queen f5. But this move maybe came as a surprise. And now you can't take. So he has to move back. And now the tactic works. Check. And if you take... But why is this so different than another example? Check. King h8. Oh yeah, of course. No, wait. Check. Bishop g7. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, that's why. Check. You'd have to play knight e5. And I guess it's getting really nasty. Though I'm still not 100%. I'm still not 100% it's over. So let's see this variation again. Queen h6 check takes. What are we missing here? Knight f6 check, king h8. Knight takes d7, check. Bishop g7 doesn't work. So we have to play knight e5. So maybe bishop takes, rook takes f7. Something like that. It's probably winning for white, but I wouldn't resign right away. The rook h3 though, I mean the queen is on a the rook is on a worse square. Though I want to see this. He has to take knight f6 check. Has to play king h8. Knight takes e7 check. Knight e5 is the only move. And this is far better than I thought for white. Just take with a knight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're only one pawn up, but the computer says it's +5. That doesn't happen every day. Bishop c3 is +5, one pawn up. It hits the rook. So he has to play rook c2. Then you take on e5 check. Now he apparently has to sack the exchange, but why? Because the attack is so strong. King g8. Rook g3 check. So you have to sack the exchange, and you're just like losing. So he had to play king g8. Alright, king g8. Okay, yeah, it's still not over. Rook takes e8 and black resigned. It's not over till it's over. Oh, the rook is hanging. Oh, it's a good thing that queen was on h6. Phew, bonus points for queen h6. That sucks. And then you realized your rook was hanging and you resigned. Shit. Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, it all went downhill at the end. After 25, c takes d3. This position is +1.3. Queen b7 is actually the best move for black. Wow. In a difficult position. King h1 is actually the best move. And now black played rook c2. And that's an inaccuracy. And now rook d2, and still black isn't lost completely. Yeah, so he had to play rook e2. But again, as I said, it doesn't threaten anything. Black just doesn't even have a threat. Even with the rooks doubled on the 7th rank, there is no threat. It's unbelievable. And actually, you know, this is really strong for white. It's crazy. Crazy just how coordinated white is there. All right, thanks, Mr. Slow. An entertaining game. You know, kind of a mysterious attack that you could kind of forgive Pugliaski for losing this game because he sort of was lured into a false sense of security. The overwhelming feeling I get about the game was this pawn on d5 contributed so much to White's entire position. Black had counterplay, but it didn't matter because none of the moves he made had any effect on taking out White's center pawns at d3 and d5. That was so Zero counterplay. All right, I've got games from Prism, Mule Skinner, and Shockey in the hopper. Dennis Hopper. Essentially just a queen trade. Huh. That's a hell of a queen trade. What about rook e3 after queen e7? What about it? I mean, looks like a good move. A queen e7 is a definite mistake. This is the biggest blunder. But I don't know, I think he's like strategically lost. He has to play rook e2. Still he's losing. He was kind of in middle game Zugzwang. Boy, was very well coordinated. Okay. Sun Prism. Guys, I'm going to stream for an hour tomorrow, Blitz. If you want to come by. Thanks again for supporting the stream. Guys, Mr. Slow can't do it by himself. We're up to 2222. We're going for 3,000. I'm a master. Thanks, Mr. Slow, for getting us over 2,200. Slowly, we're going to go above. Who's going to be the one who takes us above my actual ELO rating of 2287? The embarrassing 2287, which hopefully will correct. This weekend, I'm playing in the Hungarian Team Championship. We're going to kill someone on Sunday. And it's going to be bloody. So, all that pent-up frustration from not playing for like 6 months is going to come out in a very massive devastation of some 2200 on Sunday. I don't know what color I am yet. I'm going to find out tomorrow night what color I'm going to be on Sunday. And I'll let you guys know. It'll be too late by the time you know. The next time you guys see me, it'll be tomorrow. But the next time after that, you'll see me. My game will be over and I'll be here. I might be a little late to Sunday Simul because we have an away game. It's very far. So Sunday Simul, Mr. Slow, and whoever else is going to play. I'll just warn you guys now. The Simul could be delayed because of that. I don't know how late we're going to be. My boot camp of 80 men was 2222. Nice. Acerby's back in boot camp. All right. Prism is white, and his opponent plays the modern defense. E4, G6, D4, Bishop G7. This is Sun Prism, one of our longtime subscribers. I'm assuming he's white here. I don't think that he started playing the hippo or something. So, he plays knight to C3. This is white's clearly most aggressive move against the modern. And then black, normally doesn't do the following. I don't really see the point in this. Black plays E6. If you want to play a hippo, that's fine, but why not play D6? Creates less weaknesses. It also doesn't give away, what your plan is necessarily so much. This is just a better move than E6. You can still do E6 next move, and you can still play a hippo. But it's better not to weaken the F6 square so concretely. There's no advantage in playing E6 in this position. Of course, you'll find exceptions where it was played. Even 100 years ago, Gunsberg played B6 against Steinitz. But that's a much better move than E6 in my opinion. Okay, E6, and now the classical F4. Again, Steinitz style. Good move. Not the only way to play. You can see here that some people have played H4. H4 is definitely a reasonable idea and justified. But there's a million ways to play. You got to expect the hippo as a possibility here. If H4, I would think that black would play H6. See, Hikaru played this. Managed to win a game. Bashir played H5. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to play H5 necessarily. Interesting question. Bashir played the most aggressive sort of plan there. trying to open it up desperately with that 4. And it's interesting, Hikaru just calmly plays this, holding the structure, knight f3, g4. So something that Hikaru had looked at, obviously. Funny position. And now knight to c6, counterattacking the d4 pawn. Interesting stuff. Anyways, f4, very principled move, because f5 is a break. It's a double break. Double belly shotgun draw. So d6 secures f5. I think that's a sensible move now. This can still be played as a pawn sacrifice at some point. Knight f3, obviously principled. Knight e7 also, again, guarding the f5 square. That's a double break. Breaking against g6 and e6. New terminology. Now bishop d3. Yeah, so I don't know. It depends on which side you want to castle here. Either bishop d3 or bishop e3. But I think that either way, you really want to secure your center at this point. So we need to make one of those moves. This is more typical like Peiert's Austrian attack type setup. That's the way that Steinitz reacted against Günzburg, as I said 100 years ago. And now h6 unsolicited. Yeah, you've got to wonder, why would black play this move if it isn't necessary? You know, there is a chance that white is going to play h4, and then we'll worry about that when it happens. But I don't understand necessarily. Black's playing a hippo, he just plays the hippo moves. But that's really not a great idea. So we can see here, knight d7, a6, b6, all of those moves. For me, like knight on bc6 is a bit weird, but it does attack the central pawn at least. But this h6 definitely looks unnecessary. Slow. So there's a strong case for bishop e3 and castles queenside. That's what the young Pierun played. But you just castle kingside, it's fine. That's also Steinitzian. Castles, and now bishop e3, developing, securing d4. As for bait, remember, this isn't a queen pawn game though. In the queen pawn games, because we've played c4, right? It's a big difference. If you played c4, you've got a lot more weakness on the dark squares. But here, this is actually not a queen pawn game. It's a king pawn game, and you know we've got one pawn on white and 2 pawns on dark. So in actuality, we're a little stronger on the dark squares. So I would think this is a normal hippo move, but I would think queen d2, eyeing the h6 square. And then black has to very seriously stutter. Black has to very seriously consider whether this is a serious threat, and I think it is. f5. And so black would have to play king h7, which is really scary, or most likely he would play f5. I would think that black would play f5, when white should probably just chill. Not necessarily committing to e5 or something like that. Maybe rook ae1, I would think. But instead, you played queen e1, also a reasonable move, because sometimes the queen maneuvers on this diagonal. Okay, you can attack there, the h6 pawn. Maybe queen here. Saks Chula, Hungarian Grandmaster, did that in the Grand Prix attack. In the game I remember against Gelfand. So yeah, black now plays f5. You know, so it's not a player who's without ideas here. He's not playing just a hippo, willing to react according to the position. F5 is understandable. This is justified for black in this position. Because if you take, I mean, he takes with the knight. I think black has a reasonable position. Maybe it's weird, but playable. So I would seriously consider playing e5, but I don't think you have to commit. Probably keeping the tension. What's the idea now? I find the hippo very hard to play against, guys, and I'm sure you do too. If we just play, sorry, delete that. If we just play the routine move, rook d1. Let's for a second imagine what would happen. You know, pawn takes, knight takes e4, knight f5, bishop f2. Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea of queen g3. Rook d1 is a decent move. But queen g3 maybe has a point here, because you do attack this g6. There might be some positions where you put it on h3, although you have to watch that very carefully. So I'm not that crazy about this. I think the fear is that black will take and then, you know, hit your queen, but he can't because he'll drop g6. He can in this position. Okay, so this is a problem. There is a problem. If we play queen g3, black has takes, and knight f5. And you know, this isn't very good. Actually, let's think about this. Maybe this works. Queen g3 takes, bishop takes. And now if knight f5, we have queen takes g6. We can make it work tactically, right? Queen takes g6 because knight takes e3. We should have a mate here. Check. I don't know. Does this work? Knight g5? I gotta believe white is winning here. Mate in 5. Wow, I should have seen that. Strange, though. I didn't see this. I didn't bother to see 94 is mate. Yeah, this works. So, always good to have a computer. So this actually looks pretty good. He has to calculate that, though. Yeah, okay, e5 is a safe move. E5 is a safe move. But now it's going to be a very closed position. It's going to take a long time to break through. Obviously, hippo player is going to play d5. Lock it up. That's a general rule. That line would have taken some calculation. Yeah, I mean, and normally when we play such a move as queen g3, we're almost always taking with the knight when we go forward with the knight. There's nothing here, right? Like knight takes, knight f5, queen takes, knight takes e3. Does this work? You know, it's possible this just works. Jeez. Yeah. We're probably killing him, right? Knight here. Sack, takes, here, takes. And we're mating black anyway. No, oh my god, it doesn't work. Wow. Oh my god, we have a mate there. Well, this is crazy. Look at this. This line is equal. Knight takes e3. Knight takes d6. Rook f6. Queen h7 check. Total insanity. King f8. I don't like to use the engine too much, but just to give you an illustration of how complicated that could be. It would require really ridiculous calculation. It's hard to blame him for playing the c5. Now, we have to think about the position in terms of pawn structure. This is to be expected, although it's not forced. We have only g4 on the king side and c4 on the queen side. Maybe we have another break. Okay, I mean, theoretically you could play h4, h5. Black's never going to let you do that. If you ever play h4, black's going to play h5 and like lock the king side forever. So basically, you can't play h4 unless you have a way to open the game on the other side. It's much more better. It's much better to plan on breaking with g4, but preparing it is a very tricky business. And I think in a lot of cases, like we would rather have our king on the other side probably if we're going to play for g4. That's not always true. Whew, this is complicated. Okay, h3, and I really don't like black's next move. From my perspective here, I mean, black's only real break is c5. And so he should be, in fact, thinking about playing b6, maybe knight d7 and c5. When black goes here, I mean, that's it. You know, he's never going to be able to play for a win. He's trying to play checkers or something. You know, this isn't good. This is weak. Notice how good the queen is here, by the way. b5 is a terrible move. It weakens c5. You're never going to be able to play c5 for the rest of your life. You give white a4. I mean, this is easily his worst move of the game. Black should play b6. It's rather obvious. And white has tons of choices. You can play b4. But b5 is horrifying because you have a4 now. You gave him another break. a4 will be easy to manage. You know, so I think in fact maybe white should play a4 right away, but we can prepare it. a4, b4, knight moves, a5, c3. You crack the queenside open. And it's funny, it's kind of ironic that Sun Prism now plays g4, because I feel like this is a very safe position for white, where you don't even need to take any chances. What about, like, for example, knight e2? Because now we're threatening to play, I guess, a4. But I want to point out, kingside is, like, better for us too. We can go here and then here, you know, in combination with the weak squares at c5 and a5. I don't even think we have to do anything on the king side. I feel like I would shift to completely playing on the queen side for now and wait and see if I could break through over there. But having said that anyway, I mean, queen e1 looks like it's geared toward the king side. This isn't a clear breakthrough. We need knight e2, knight g3. Next. Knight here. You know, queen g3. I mean, the problem is, how are you going to get his knight off of f5? In this type of French, or whatever you want to call it, when black does f5, I remember a long time ago seeing a strong player play this type of structure with white. I mean, it's like a closed King's Indian. I like this move for a bunch of reasons. You know, it stops this crap on the diagonal. It stops knight b4, but it comes over here, and we're going to play it like a King's Indian where we're maneuvering, you know, our knight to, like, whatever. And the King's Indian, it would be on the other side, like a bayonet King's Indian, to trade off a knight on c5 or whatever. So here we're trading off a knight on f5. We're going to have to be able to get rid of that knight on f5. And so I think this makes a lot of sense. Queen g3 is like, well, what exactly are you doing? You know, you're going to go on the f file here? Are you threatening to take on f5, take with your queen on g6? Maybe. So black can play queen e8. That seems like the thing to do. You know, this way he prevents you from taking on f5. I mean, maybe prevents is too strong a word, but let's say you take on f5. You could still take with a knight. Now you have to take. I mean, white is better spatially, of course. But let's say rook takes. Now you have knight h4. This actually looks pretty good. So black would have to defend with, like, pawn takes. He'd have to play... Sorry, whoa, what happened here? Someone else stole my analysis. He'd have to play pawn takes, like g takes. This is still very good for white. Okay, so queen g3, black plays knight b4. We don't care about that too much. He's welcome to take our bishop and fix the pawns to that. Rook A D1. This move is not necessary. I would not play Rook D1. You know, as I said, I think you have... Oh, I see. He's taking out your bishop so you can take with the knight on F5. That's actually kind of annoying. Knight B4 is a good move. Now you take on F5, he takes on D3. Maybe you don't recapture. This is a weird position. Yeah, F6, I don't like it. Well, that's annoying. Maybe he sacks a pawn. Let's say knight takes B3. Knight takes D3, pawn takes, knight F5, queen takes G6, doesn't work. Yeah, that's messed up. You can't do that. So I think it would have been better to play knight E2. Alright, so queen G3, knight B4, good move. This move I don't really understand. We're just getting the rook in the game, okay? Knight takes, and now rook takes. But ironically, you know, I think like this also needs to be seriously considered. You could just pressure him down the C file there. But I mean, now that you played rook D1, I guess, you know, that's the point. But in general, not a great idea. I thought you were just going to use your rook here with rook D1. Rook D2. Just take back. And this is the way the rook goes anyway, right? So after this, there is a chance of like B4, A5, bishop A6, which I don't really like. Queen E8, standard move. Knight H4, also a standard move. B4, there's your bishop A6. Knight E2, as expected. This is a really nice move, the queen on E8, because it controls A4. So now you can't go to A4. And you can't go into C5. That move is excellent for black. The queen on E8. So see, now he has to go somewhere else. Maybe D1 would even be better. Although it's hard to see a clear path from there. It's hard to see where the knight has a clear path anyway. Maybe even B1. But I think he didn't want to get skewered on the diagonal. So here, but this is very awkward for us now. Suddenly black has bishop A6. That's why you should have taken with the pawn. Still, G takes F5. And now, why can't black take with a knight here? Well, the million-dollar question that's going to haunt black for the rest of his life. If you take with a knight, white has to exchange. I mean, it seems to me like black can take back with the rook or the G pawn here. Rook takes is probably safest. But this move is really, really unnecessary and bad. I don't see any upsides in taking with the E pawn for black. That only creates another problem or problems. This is a protected pass pawn on E5. You know, the D5 pawn is weaker, although that may not be a big factor. Why the heck would he do that? You know, this is like the worst move ever. Take with the knight and you're okay. Even take with the G pawn might be okay. But taking this way, why? Why would black take that way? I just don't see a reasoning for it. It's not like he's getting in G5 and F4. He can stick his bishop on A6. Well, that's not happening. That's supposed to go to A6. So this is a totally incomprehensible mistake by black, taking with the E pawn. Now you have pressure, by the way, against G6, which probably cost black the game. Bishop A6, here, King H2, Bishop A6, move the rook, right? And now black is just slightly worse, or clearly worse. He has no counterplay with C5. He has no G5. You know, he can take the knight and try to, like, lift his rook here and defend laterally. And now's your last chance to take that knight with your lousy bishop. And if I was him, I would take that opportunity very gladly. You get rid of a bad piece. well, at least a piece that doesn't have any definitive value in the rest of the game, and maybe you can defend this position somehow for black. Not easy, but like I'm saying, maybe we can defend. But he just doesn't take. And so that means now, yeah, exactly. Some prison plays knight c1. Another big mistake by black. First one was e takes f. Now not taking the knight here, and suddenly this is a huge threat. Now it's like, oh no, I'm not going to let you trade my knight. So black screws up now. Although there's no good move. He should have probably played this. Actually, no. He could play a4. Probably a4. You know, at least stopping knight b3. Now you have to play knight d3. He has a second chance to take. So this is really bad. Bishop e5, a horrible move. Knight b3, now you got a huge problem. So now black has two useless bishops and a useless knight. And white has two good knights. The bishop could work its way into the game. Back to f2 through h4, or possibly over on the queen side. More likely it'll carve its way into the game from the c3 break. It looks like black is like strategically lost now. a4, this is too late. I think black is lost now. I mean, maybe a computer could defend this for black. But after a4, the final straw is that. If you wanted a job for your bishop, you can take out the pawn on b4 with it. Bishop f8. Now knight e6. I mean, I'm not quite sure exactly what we're doing here with knight e6. You're threatening c7. Okay. I'm not sure if you should play that. I would play something more constructive. I mean, rook g2. Bishop on d2, possibly. I feel like you're going fishing a little bit with knight e6. Rook a7. Now he does this. Okay. Bishop d7. And then he goes back. Alright, c6, another horrible move. Black needs patience to play this position. The g5, we can't get it in. It's too overwhelmed. He also doesn't even have his rook a6 lateral defense because the knight on c5. I guess this is part of the reason why the guy played like c6. Maybe he can get his rook across. Bishop c8, rook across. Yeah, exactly. You played e6. I don't know about e6. You know, e6 is a little bit like hasty. I don't think you should commit to e6. Now you commit to having advanced your protected passed pawn. Why not just play patient here? Bishop d2 is very strong, but more importantly, we probably recirculate the knight back. You can do stuff like queen h4. That looks extremely strong. Or even possibly, now at this point, we might even have h4, h5. But I think the e6 is a little committal. Yeah, bishop d2, a3, whatever. Just play b3. Rook c7. Now the b pawn just goes. It's over. This is over for black. Yeah, he's totally crushed. Lost out all of his pawns. Devastating. Devastating. Knight g8. There goes f5. Oof. No resign. Threefold repetition. Another knight. Oh. Ugly. Alright. So you see how that game turned on a couple of mistakes by black. It wasn't a one-way game. Black was probably holding on, you know, until he makes like two very serious positional mistakes. He's worse, yes, but he isn't lost until, first of all, taking the wrong way on f5, and then secondly, choosing to not trade a bad bishop for a very potentially strong knight. Major mistake. All right, Victor versus Muleskinner. We got Shaki, though. Maybe we should do Shaki first, because Shaki was here. All right. Welcome, guys. Let's get some donations. Flood the stream with donations. Hype train is upon us. Mr. Coffee was here earlier, no? No? Maybe I'm hallucinating. WJ Loof was here earlier. Alright, so this is Shaki. Mr. Slow, thank you so much. Mr. 112. 112 donation, we're up to 2222. We're going to 3,000. I want to be 3,000 by the time I get to the World Senior. Move 11, thanks for the gift sub today. So, onward. Shaki sent us this game against IM Beatles. It's a Berlin defense. Shaki's known for playing exciting stuff. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop E5, Knight F6. Now he's playing an IM. It's a solid choice against a strong player. And I think, you know, objectively, of course, it's hard to win with black. But it's very frustrating for the stronger player playing white to fight against this very solid line. So castles, I already started playing D3 a while ago. I was playing Queen E2 as well. I don't know how white can get an advantage against the Berlin. You know, let Kramnik figure that out or something. Castles, knight takes E4, D4, knight D6, bishop takes C6. I remember Alexei Swayton. I thought the Beatles were from Liverpool. Do they live in Germany too? Alright, B takes C6. Nobody plays this. It's a totally different idea, but just throwing it out there. Alright, so D takes C6, D takes E5. I didn't realize this knight E4 is even playable. Alright, knight F5. Wow, someone even went here. That's crazy. That's crazy, that's just weird. Knight C4. Knight F5, Queen D8 check, King D8. Okay, so we got the mainline Berlin defense endgame. We never get these on the stream anyway. Well, as you can see, there's like tons of theory. H3, Knight C3, Rook D1 check. I don't pretend to understand these too well. But I think that you need to look at the position in strategic terms. White has, you know, like a winning king and pawn endgame. But black's not going to just allow you to centralize your king and trade all the pieces off. And then there are a lot of cases where you could get like ops color bishops. Because white has given up the light square bishop already. And that's very important to understanding this endgame. You know, what's the deal, you know? White has a better pawn structure in a way, but this e-pawn is also a tad like extended. So black has the bishop pair, and white's e-pawn seems like it's a little bit kind of overextended. This position takes a lot of skill for white to play, and I wouldn't recommend anybody playing it with white who was below like 2,000. You know, I mean, it's a really difficult variation where you only have a space advantage in an endgame. A bit bold to play the main line Berlin against the title player. Well, I don't know. You know, I mean, I think it's frustrating for white too. You know, he's got to prove it. There's something here. Now, another thing is that like a lot of title players, they're not necessarily their style. Although I guess if they allow it, they should probably know what they're doing. You know, certain players, like attacking players, I would think would be too depressed to even allow it. They wouldn't even go into it. You know, what is an attacking player going to do? Like maybe play the 4 knights. Even D3 is kind of too dry for dynamic players. So I would recommend if you're like an aggressive player, you probably have to transpose to the 4 knights or something after knight C3. Yeah, they should be better in endgame positions. King Marcher. Not for everybody to try this, for sure. Castles, knight takes e4, d4, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So take, knight c3. Strategically speaking, I think white, you know, wants to play where he could somehow trade his dark square bishop for black's bishop. Maybe get it to a situation where it's like closed game with two knights against bishop and knight. Trade off black's bishop pair. You know, that's one of the strategies that might work for white. The other one, the main one, is like trying to ram these. I mean, the main strategic plan for white in most lines seems to be trying to ram the pawn majority, use white's kingside pawn majority as like an aggressive advantage. But it's not easy to do that. You know, even your own king can come under fire. Black has, I think, stronger players, even they would win games on a regular basis. So black now plays bishop e7. This apparently is, wow, has like the record number of draws of any move. Look at that statistic. Just a massive number of draws after bishop e7. Yeah, I think I faced this because I remember playing like bishop g5 or something, and it's not so good for white. It looks like black's making a mistake by allowing what I was just talking about. Trade of black's bishop pair. Black's choosing to allow it. What's his justification? Simplifying, maybe he's less cramped. So bishop takes g5, knight takes g5, king e7. This pawn still remains a little bit overextended. So bishop g5 isn't that promising. White plays h3, and now we have knight h4. And it's just a massive amount of draws. Vachier has 2 wins against Adams and Aronian, 2017, 2018. So knight takes h4, bishop takes h4, knight e4. This apparently is a rare move. Well, I mean, what are you doing against knight e4, bishop f5? I mean, are you just... I guess you're just playing rook e1 or something, huh? So the main move appears to be bishop e3. There's just a million draws. Black has never won a game in the history of chess in this line. That's even weirder. Does black benefit from the trade of knights? Well, I mean, I think for white, it's always an issue because his knight, like, gets in the way of the f-pawn. So I would think, like, that would benefit white. The fact that his f-pawn, like his kingside majority, can move forward. To be honest, I think both sides, if that's possible to say, I think that both sides benefit from this exchange of knights. But maybe not. Maybe white should think about, seriously, more abstract stuff. Looks like we've got a threefold repetition after knight f5, knight f3. Cowards, you know, like drawing here. But maybe white could put the knight on e2, no? Something else here. So look at this. For example, a game from 2019, Ante Brkic playing it for a win with white against Svane. Now black plays b6. Still very hard for white to do anything. White actually lost another game after a4, a5, b3, bishop d7, bishop b2, king c8, rook d1, knight h4. Black actually went on to lose this game. The computer says it's equal. So knight e4 is this? Okay, it's safe. Anyway. Yeah, bishop there. And now I expected rook e1. That was played in other games. So I suspect that the Beatles doesn't know the line or whatever. So this is just more simplification. I would think this is getting pretty close to a clear draw. I mean, what are we going to do about the attack on c2? After check, clearly rook e1 is a little bit of a better try. Oh, at least, you know, not trading another set of pieces. Now another set of pieces trade. And we play king e7, which is standard. And now c2 is hanging. So what do we do with a c2 pawn? You don't want to protect it with a rook. c4. I mean, c4 is kind of controversial. But this is why I don't really like... This is why I don't like bishop g5 check now. You know, we don't have a good way to deal with the pawn on c2. I still think after rook e1, the white has nothing anyway. But it's a little bit awkward for black. I mean, how is he going to play with his bishop like stuck out there on h4? If you just leave it out there, it does seem a little bit awkward. So here's the answer, h5. Okay, fine. But it's still a bit awkward. I don't agree with bishop g5 check. But white has some other move. Here's someone played bishop f4. This makes sense to me. Now, keeping the pieces on the board, black could play, what, king e7? So what do you think the engine would say? Then the bishop runs out of squares. See, that's the problem. If you go here, then g3 starts to be an issue. Suddenly we like lose a piece. So he has to put his king on c8. Yeah, Van Foreest knows a lot of theory. Rook e2. Ultimately, though, you have to bring the bishop back. Yeah, it's slightly better for white, but not really. Almost nothing. So this is a very safe line for black. Bishop takes g5, knight takes g5, king e7. I would say white has nothing. I would go as far as to say, like, white could even lose. It's possible white could even be worse very easily here. We get control of the open file. Why aren't we just better? After rook d8. Why did you play h6? Is his knight hurting you? Did his knight insult the MAGA movement or something? Why are you attacking the knight on g5? Why are you attacking me? Do you know where the d file is? Immediately I got canceled. Unbelievable. Dude, if you play this, might even give ourselves an extra retreat square here. You're threatening to play rook d2. I think that white is actually in some trouble, because if rook d1, then you play bishop c2. Maybe white is seriously worse here. I guess he has rook c1. Little trick. But then okay, then we play slow improving moves. Let's see, bishop d3, rook e1, like c5 or something. White's winning now? Oh my god. That's crazy. So that's why you played h6. So once he plays rook e1, that's really sick. He has the threat of playing e6. Wow. So this is actually, there's some danger here. Okay, so I'm saying playing bishop c2 may not be so simple. Rook c1, we need to be careful. Bishop d3 is a very bad move. We have to go back probably all the way. White would play... Well, this is protected, so I think we're okay now. f4. Alright, Shocky's... It's okay. Shocky's fine. h6 is not a bad move. And then he played c5. Take away the d4 square. You know, honestly, I like the way you played it. I'm a little worried about b4. But I don't think that he has enough time. And even then, maybe b6 is okay. Anyway, I mean, b4 isn't really dangerous. I don't imagine it could be dangerous. It is the best move for white. Maybe not. So let's see. Rook fd1. Rook d8. Rook e1. Rook e1. Rook fd1. Then rook e1. He seriously... It was a simul. So I've had games like this where I do really stupid shit. You're clearly better now. But that was really inconsistent. He went rook d1. But this is serious. He should play b4. This is not a standard move, man. I mean, you're white. Black has doubled pawns. You're letting black undouble the pawns to try to get control of a key central square. So the idea is that you get knight to d4. And if you get knight to d4, you're golden. Everything is fine. Plus you have the added bonus of some pressure here. The bishop isn't necessarily better than the knight if the knight is stationed on a square like d4. And what are black's alternatives after b4? You can go here. It's kind of gross. But maybe because the b file is... That's fortunate that our bishop is controlling b1. If you take on c5, get this isolated pawn though, black is going to have to be careful. Yeah, that knight could attack it. So what does computer say after b4? b6, bc5, bc5. Wow. So white's really fighting to not be worse. I figured knight d2. Yeah, Shaki's seriously better. And this is how easy it is for white to go wrong. But that's his best defense. b4 is his best defense. This move here. Now what's he going to do? Centralize his king? It's still not too late to play b4. He still should play b4, of course. This is the stupidest move ever. Oh, he blundered a pawn with bishop takes h3. Woof. Who's looking for tactics here? Nice. Uh-oh, another one. Yeah. And now you're threatening bishop c4. Oops. Nice simul. White was in time pressure, as you can see. Okay, nice game, Shaki. Easily winning against an IM, the black side of a Berlin. And then finally we have Muleskinner. Does black benefit from the trade of knights? Yeah, we said that. That is the one upside of knight h4. It clears the e7 square for the king. But you do have to watch for that bishop getting trapped on h4. So Muleskinner usually sends me a description of his game. Why didn't I see that? Today's game. Inbox? Yeah, Muleskinner. Okay, a 90-30 game over the board. Last round and last tournament. You played an IM as black. Well, we don't know. Oh. Victor, we don't know. We don't know who the IM is. But whatever. That's not important. So anyway, white is a strong... Wait, you said you played an IM. Is he 2054? No, I think that I misread the message. He played an I'm black. Okay, I'm black. You're not playing an IM. You're black. Okay, I'm smart. I can figure stuff out. That's what they pay me big bucks for. So you're black. Yeah, we get that. It's not an IM. It's just a regular 2054. So white plays d4, knight f6, c4, c5, and then d5, and you play the Benko. You know, frankly, I don't understand what the Benko is. It's just not popular at all. Maybe at the top level, it lost its popularity. I would think it'd be a great opening for like lower level players from a certain point, you know, from like 1800 and above. This would be a very good opening to understand. even if maybe there's some technical problems in some complicated main lines where the top players just don't like it enough. It used to be much more common to see the Benko. I rarely have people playing the Benko against me. It's extremely rare. So, C takes B, A6. Obviously, you don't have to play A6, but it's the standard move. And now white plays E3. Yeah, so E3 is one of the most heavily recommended variations for white. You can see it's the third most popular line. In the 90s, when I was learning, playing a lot, could you play B6 and kill the fun? Well, I mean, I played B6 a long time, and I don't think it's that big a deal, to be honest. I'll be honest, I just don't think the B6, I feel that excited when I play it anymore. I always figured there was something better. I think the top level players aren't afraid of B6. They're more afraid of other stuff in the main lines with BA6. The highest levels, there's some issues there, but this was a very standard line. You know, I remember in the late 90s, this being very topical. Lots of articles in New in Chess magazine, seeing other players play it. I never played this line with white, and I never played the Benko, really. But it's a critical variation. So I have had a few students who played the Benko, and we had to look at this. So there's two, if I recall, there's two ways to play this for black. Two, like, good ways to play it. One of them you take, and the other one, I guess you just pretend it's like a normal Benko with G6. But this is more like forcing. A takes B. I feel like this was the standard way to play it back in the 90s, but it's more of the G6 now. There we see some Jeff Jiang, Topalov, who else? Gawain Jones, Perunovich. Not a lot of names here, you know, that's what I'm saying. Tregubov is like one of the only people. Benko is not popular. So anyway, A takes B, bishop takes B5, queen A5 check, knight C3, and now bishop B7. I think Mule Skinner at least once. I'm getting challenged by the Count of Monte Cristo. No, we're not taking challenges tomorrow. Friday, 1 p.m. Central European summertime. It's still summer. I think Mule Skinner must have shown us at least one other game in this line a while back. But this is the main line. Okay, so bishop D2. It looks like knight E2 is also a major variation. So there white gives the pawn back after knight takes D5. Shirov Adams. Believe it or not, Adams did play the Benko. Now it seems weird to think about that. Alright, so bishop D2. And so here, knight takes D5, not so good. Knight D5, knight D5, queen B5, knight C7 check. So you have to move the queen, and that's what happens. So this is the standard starting position for the variation. And black is down a pawn. If white plays, the problem is if you play E4, black has knight takes E4 now. I would assume the answer is yes. E4, knight takes E4. Notkin against Matamoros Franco. Wow. That's weird. Those two grandmasters did this. And there's only one game where this happened. You know, sometimes games are misrecorded. A4, knight takes C3, bishop takes C3. Like an intentional sacrifice by Notkin. Crazy. Queen D2, queen takes G2, castles queenside. What? Queen takes h1. f3. Wow. Is this for real? Apparently this is better for black. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Okay. Very strange line by white. But normally white looks like plays knight f3. Yeah, and the other move, feels weird. Why? This is such a strange place to put the queen. Karpov has a game. That's really old. 1986. 1986 Karpov game against the Benko. Belyatsky played it in 84. So knight f3. Everyone plays knight f3. Alright, I'm going to ban this guy. Tell your countrymen to stop challenging me. Just because I'm American, I'm not stupid. Okay, a4. This is a rare move. So this has been played by some players, some good players. Well, it's a normal idea to give the pawn back. But normally white doesn't play this at a4 so early. So I would say, okay, what is the big deal with a4? Well, the main problem for white is like, why is white playing knight f3 in most cases? I would guess because this diagonal, you know, g2. So by playing a4, we do nothing about the future, like g2 pawn, do nothing about our kingside development. Yet white still has a good score with this move. I mean, is it just going to transpose? I would assume that's the point. It's just going to transpose. Maybe it doesn't really matter. Is there some way that can exploit it? There is, possibly. White could potentially face e6 here. There's a possibility of a5. In most cases, I'm seeing a5, we eat it. But that is a possibility. It's a possibility. a5. If you were to play a5, you had a move, like 2 moves in a row, and you were to play a5, I would take it. You don't really have a discovery yet. You might in the future. So if knight takes d5, a5, we just take it. Rook takes a5, no. So if knight takes d5, a5, no, we don't take it. We take on c3 and we win a piece. Or do we? So there's a crazy line here. Okay, let's see. Knight takes d5, a5. Knight takes d5, a5, and if knight takes c3, our queen is protected. I mean, our rook is protected, my other queen, sorry. If takes, 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 and then takes. This is the point, you know. I think that black is winning. Because this final step is a doozy, or whatever. So there's none of this a5 stuff yet. But I was going to ask is, can black try something different? So can black go like e6? Dan Kremling says yes. Dan Kremling. Swedish, I am. So, you could try e6. White just plays e4. And German 2300 bites the dust. E takes d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight f3. Best case scenario, black just transposes. Doesn't seem to be any real independent value for white with a4. Anyway, knight f3, okay. And now we just transposed. It was as if white played knight f3, we took on d5, and then he played a4. And now e6. Developing. Principled move. But e6 doesn't have such a good score, it looks like. Oh, it's the only move. Knight c7. There's your a5. Knight b4. This seems to have been played by some pretty good players. Ahmed Adli, Dimitri, lost to Hans. I don't know if that was before or after the implant, when he was won with Elon Musk. Somewhere around there it happened. Yeah, but knight b4 is a risky move. e6 is much more principled. This is main line, castles. And now again, the principled choice, bishop e7. So this is a main line, but look at the score for white, winning almost all the top games. That's a bad scene, you know? Why is white winning all these games? The outside a-pawn is so annoying. Now, if you don't feel satisfied with your current variation against the e3 Benko, you have to go back to the looking at the modern treatment with g6. So let's see, knight c3, bishop g7, a4, castle, knight f3. I mean, the score here for black is equally miserable. It looks like bishop b7, rook a3. Yeah, and then here you have to try to get in some kind of e6. I think we looked at this. e6, de6, fe6. This is some kind of alternative. But the games are really old. Why are there such old games here? This is not a modern alternative. These are really old games. So no one's playing rook a3 anymore, it looks like. They must play something else. Grishuk Zhang, 2022. Bishop e2. Nothing there. So what the hell are they playing? Rook a3 is still the best move. Rook a3 is still the best move. Maybe black doesn't play e6 anymore. Still the best line. It's weird. Look at the games. They're like ancient games here. They're all ancient games. They're from 1997. It's funny, though, because this line... I mean, I don't know what to say. The computer prefers d takes e6. Wow. So check this out. There's suddenly a couple games. They're recent. Yeah, it's difficult to say. This is just one of the many reasons why many people, stop playing the Benko. The c3 is something you got to be prepared for. Anyways, so we'll get to our position here. Standard line, a4, knight takes e5, knight f3, whatever, e6, castles here. Here, so this is a weird move. Duda versus Federico Manca, 2013. Not, Astrobait, I told you not to move your knight a second time in the opening. Piano Guide Chess. e6 is probably really losing. e6 is losing. So the only alternative is like knight to b4. But according to the computer, they're all equally the same. Well, I'm losing is too strong of a word, but black is slightly worse in all variations. But statistically, black has done much worse with e6 than the others. But it's also been played more. But I mean, knight e5 is definitely a mistake. So he's supposed to play, what, e4? And now knight b4. And I can tell you from experience that it's not fun playing against Robert Markos. Djukic lost. There's a bunch of people here that lost to black, but they're always facing stronger players. Djukic against Robbie, Sebastian against Bakro, Hyunduk against Nabadi. Every single game here, every single game on that list is like the stronger players playing white. So it's a little bit biased by the fact that, well, good players aren't really playing the Benko. Black isn't going to do that well if they're all lower rated players playing black. 100 points, 100 points, 200 points, 200 points. 100 points, 50 points. That's the list there. The difference between white and black. White almost always the higher rated player. There's like one game where black was the higher rated player. It's crazy. So Benko's not popular. So knight b4, interesting. This seems to be a good move, and I think it's safe to say that Mule Skinner is prepared this far. But that did not happen in the game. So he's facing knight e5. And it puts pressure on d7, so it's like a way of preventing us from castling. So the move itself makes sense. What are we supposed to do? Knight c6? If this was like a blitz game, I would think about sacking a pawn. Let's say, yeah. And this 3 people played shit. Postny and Duda both played it with white, although Duda was like playing here. This game is probably from Hungary, by the way, ironically enough. I remember I was still living in the same apartment I'm living in now in 2013, and Duda played in it for a Saturday, and I walked to the venue, which was on this side of the river at that time. And I think around that time I remember Manka playing too. He's an Italian, an older Italian I am. That's probably from first Saturday, 2013. Sacking this pawn is apparently no good. So Mule Skinner here makes a novelty, but one that makes some sense. I mean, it's not ridiculous to go knight f6. You can see this was played in another game. Just one game. But what about this? What if we go here? I was going to say, like, that's the move I would play in a blitz game. It seems to, like, deal with the immediate fallout of what's happening. I mean, if everything goes according to plan, we sort of get this, like, equal position. The question is, does white have anything concrete? You know, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5. Some kind of threat somewhere. Knight c6 challenges the knight on e5. Is knight c4 a problem? I wouldn't think it was necessarily a problem. We go back. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, do they take with the bishop? And what? What's the problem? It seems very logical. I mean, does white have another trick? Some sort of sacrifice? I mean, here, there's no way you're gonna like sack a knight or something. I mean, that's crazy. So I'm curious. A5, the old A5 trick. This is playable. Wow. A5 is playable. We have to go back to C7. So that is a possibility. Yeah, that's white's best move. Maybe we came up with a good novelty. I don't know. Knight C6 seems very logical to me. It's surprising that no one found that move. But apparently Castles is okay. The computer is really, now it's zoning in on knight c6. Again, I am surprised that no one played knight to c6. It seems like the most logical solution. So what do? You went back to f6. So this has been played, it's a little slow. I like knight c6 better. So what's the point though? Castles. And black lost all games. E4, the strongest player, of course, playing white. And now knight takes c3, which is a big mistake according to the engine. So 2300 losing to a 2600. That's a fair game. Knight d5, e d5, knight d7. Knight d5, e d5, knight d7. That's insane. That's kind of like knight f7. Well, I was thinking about knight f7. I think it's similar. To be honest, they're similar. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun for a blitz game or something. It's apparently playable. Playable. Yeah, it's better than knight f7. But it also gives black a chance, you know. It's gambling, is what it is. Knight takes d7 is gambling. But if you like gambling, that's cool. Knight f6 is a bad move, too slow. But, I mean, I was curious about this castle's line. So e4, and then here. And this transposes, wow. This transposes to some real line. Sabina Brunello. That's not like the scammy organizer grandmaster, is it? I'm not sure. Sabino. Alright, there's some scammy Italian organizer grandmaster. It's kind of sketchy how he got his title. I'm not sure if that's the one. I don't think so. I think that guy's pretty good. Not sure who I'm thinking of. Not naming names. Alright, so e5, knight takes c3. So you played knight f6. This is a mistake. He plays no e4. He plays rook e1, which is unnecessary. But who knows it's unnecessary? Yes, it's too dangerous to take the pawn on e4. Unsurprising, but, you know, if you don't know that... So he's preparing it now. Well, it's basically a Blumenfeld. The problem is now we have a serious chance to play like d5. And so if we can play d5, it means we can play d4. And if we can play d5, we can play d4. We're like suddenly taking over the center. So I'm most interested in d5. Well, d5 take. There's some awkward problems here. For example, d5 take knight c4, hitting this, or even knight g6. So unfortunately, maybe d5 isn't so good. But meanwhile, white has threats of like knight to c4. I mean, there's always d6, but it's not very exciting. We have to play knight c4, queen c7, and then they can squeeze us with like e5, and our structure looks very bad. We're gonna get kind of tortured, I think, structurally here for black. I don't know if black is lost, but I don't like the structure after that. So Muleskitter tried to play more actively with d5. I'm concerned tactically about this being loose. But maybe that's the only way we can play. Anything else is like too passive. I would be willing to wager that maybe that's the case. That in reality, moves other than d5 are just simply too passive for black here. I mean, I guess you have to look at like queen c7 or something. Maybe this is worth considering. Because bishop f4 may not be that good. There's something of an issue here. That might or might not be an issue. Sorry guys, we had a momentary out. I think the FCC had gotten wind of me, you know, criticizing the fuckface, who is the right-wing Federal Communications Commission director, who's now installing their agenda, Republic of the United States. We just got knocked off the airwaves there for a very brief moment here in Urbanistan. But we're back, because we have even more freedom of speech than you do in the United States now, in Urbanistan. Who would have imagined that? Unbelievable. But, alright, bishop d6 looks like a problem. So queen c7. And where does the knight go? What does the knight say? This defends e7. It attacks the knight, and we're going to play d5. So if knight c4, like d5. There's a lot of possibilities here. Takes, you know, here. And black's position feels like you're definitely worse, no matter what you do. E4, d5, take. And now you took with knight, so that was your plan. Okay. So his plan was to just not take with the pawn. I thought you were going to take with the pawn and take your chances with whatever, you know, shit hits the fan here. Because I think you can legitimately consider this. Do your discovery, whatever. Here, okay, fine. I'll just take it. You know, I'll take it. You'll take on e7. It's illegal. What the fuck? Oh. There goes the FCC again. Wow. They seriously banned me. Is Lichess down again? Ooh. What? Whoa. What did I say about the Federal Communication Commission? Do you guys remember? The Nazi dickhead? Okay. Can we get the internet working here? Weed delivery. Wired display. I thought was weed delivery. Alright. Are we still online? We had a major outage. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Last game. So I'm thinking, yeah, we're trying to play this position. This is the key. I mean, you have possibilities of playing d4 and clearing the long diagonal for attack, potentially. I guess the question arises now. You have two possibilities. You can take with the knight and your structure sucks, and you'll try to grovel for a draw, or you take with the pawn with a more dynamic structure, giving up the bishop pair. Now maybe I'm missing something more concrete. See? I'm right about this position. This is the moment of going from slightly worse to clearly worse, it looks like, for black. And, well, the computer pointed out white has a steadier move to play after pawn takes. It doesn't want to do anything fancy like knight g6 or knight c4. The engine was suggesting the more positional, like bishop g5, which is kind of interesting. Move that makes a lot of sense, you know, putting on the pressure, but I thought, honestly, that like d4, we're going to run into tricks with this knight c4 again. It's not clear that black should play d4. And if we move our rook or something, this is kind of Nimzovician, right? This knight on e5, giving up the center, just playing against the hanging pawns, just with the pieces for white. So I don't know, but I still think you should take your chances with e takes. I would definitely take my chances here. These hanging pawns are your game. Um, so knight takes is kind of a concession. Now you're just worse structurally. The good news is you're not down any material. You know, and none of your pieces are completely dead. One can't blame Mjolnir for playing knight takes d5. It's just not as dynamic as e takes. So now queen h5, which is like kind of a weird move. I mean, he's like attacking. But I suppose it's not bad. The queen is mobile there. You go back to h3. If knight f6, queen h3. h3 is a good square. It protects g2. He's kind of provoking black to make some kind of weakness. So naturally, Mjolnir doesn't want to create more weaknesses. He doesn't want to play f6. And this is a problem anyway. That's actually your... We might say that's the biggest problem with black's position. That freaking outpost on c4. This is really... I mean, probably a variation we need to take a look at is e takes d knight c4. Because I was concerned about that from the beginning. You know, how strong is that move? But I think, I don't know if you saw this, but I think this is my point. You could also take, according to the engine, your structure goes there. You gain a lot of time with knight to c6. The problem is, like, in the game continuation after knight takes d5, the square is under his control for the rest of forever. So even if you manage to kick the knight off of e5, he's just going to c4, which is almost as good a square. And meanwhile, we're like paralyzed and we can't move our knight off of b8 because of threats of a fork on d7. So if you can't kick the knight off of e5, if you can't develop because you can't kick the knight off e5, and even if you do kick the knight off e5, it goes to c4, you're like kind of paralyzed. When he plays queen h5, what is he threatening, by the way? Inquiring minds want to know. Because I would ask the question here, you played kind of routine move, but what about queen c7? Yeah, I guess there you're running into bishop d3. When he has this square additionally, we would now go back. We'd have to go back anyway. You can't play a pawn move here. You have to play knight f6 and then queen h3. This looks horrible for black. You have this also. Bishop g5. Yeah. So knight takes d5. Very strong move by white. Queen h5, knight f6. And now he goes to h4. But why would he go to h4 when he could go to h3? Why would you want to put your queen in a square where it's going to be discovered on? I guess it doesn't matter because you can't actually do a discovery. Interesting. Wow. So it's possible that queen h4 is even stronger because you can't do knight d5. Damn. But you can play queen c7. But it may not be enough. But I mean here, he's threatening knight d7. He's threatening knight g4. He's threatening these type of pins. Can you play knight c6? Would be my question. Again, bishop takes d5, bishop takes, c6, bishop takes c6. And then like pin you with bishop g5. Not that clear. You can also just go back with knight c4, recirculate. This is a very strong position for white. Yeah. Knight takes d5 was a bad move. Okay, rook d8. That weakens f7. But it controls the forks at d7. Knight c4. At least he's going, away from your king, which is good. But now he has queen on h4, which means bishop f4. That's another problem with queen on h4. So queen c7, bishop f4, and you're lost. That's brutal. He just paralyzed you. Like, this guy's really pretty strong. So this is the only move. queen a7. And now problem is he needs a way to finish you off, and I don't know what it is. You're threatening knight c6. You're finally going to develop your knight with knight c6. So what's the deal? You're actually also threatening discoveries with knight to d5, trading pieces. So he plays now queen g3, avoiding discoveries. We can't sack the exchange, so what are you going to do? Develop your knight. Develop your freaking knight. They're killing the pets. They're eating the pets. They're eating the pets. So, okay, what do we have? The old bishop h6. That's not so scary. Queen c7. That's also maybe not that scary. But I cannot. I mean, this is a really, like, crazy move. When you're not developed. Somebody has to explain to me why we can't go here. Somebody's going to explain this to me. Somebody better explain to me why we can't go here. Because inquiring minds want to know. I'm going to need to see a really good reason why we can't play knight to c6. Because I'm not convinced by bishop h6. I don't even know what that does. No, queen c7 I looked at. I thought we had something there. We have rook c8. I mean, what are you doing? Queen c7 doesn't work at all. We have a number of defenses. Any number of defenses. Rook d7, rook a c8. Remember, the bishop on d2 is under attack by the rook on d8. Yeah, no, Mr. Coffee, good suggestion. I mean, in general. But, like, this doesn't work because of knight h5. Bishop h6 is not a big deal. I think it's not a big deal because we just go back. So, I mean, this seems kind of critical. What is White going to do now? What is he going to do? We're threatening this. This is crippling. Knight d4. Holy shit, Batman. Black is suddenly fine after knight to c6. This is like Nefedov developing his queen's knight in the Slav. I can't believe it. We moved it and it's fine. I mean, on bishop h6, you could even possibly play like g6, but I'd rather not do that. I'd really rather play bishop f8. And then you could look at stuff like bishop g5. But then we go back. I'm just a caveman. I'm just not seeing it. You know, where is it? Knight e4? It's still not clear. Emil Skinner here, he got like tempted into doing this crazy move, rook d4. But it goes against the principle of like, you know, development. National Master Dale. Welcome back. So, I'm thinking like for the first time in a long time, black is okay after knight c6. But you guys decide for yourselves. Yeah. It is the best move, but surprisingly not by that much. Wow. I know a couple of things. I know I believe in fundamental principles, and I know that black is behind in development here. And I know I'm not a computer, and I know that rook d4 is kind of a cheapo-ish sort of move. So if you give me a choice between solid developing and reaching out and touch someone with a sketchy looking move that's kind of a one move threat, I'm going to go with developing move for 200, Bob. Especially against a strong player. You know, he's a little bit higher rated than Muleskinner. This is frightening, you know. I mean, what if White just plays like H3? Defending the G4 square. I feel like we're just making a one move threat with Rook D4. I'm surprised the computer actually thinks it's okay. But as Mr. Coffee pointed out, there ended up being some sort of Queen C7. I would have been concerned about that too. So Knight C6 solves all the problems. Now we can cover this. You know, but most importantly, you have the knight coming D4. And if he takes, that's fine too. I'm more than happy to give you my, you know, knight for a bishop, an unopposed bishop on the long diagonal. This bishop is beautiful. If knight E5 or something, bishop E8, I love it. Bring it on. Look at that. Steinitz, like, you know, bishop on E8. What are you going to do to me? Bring it on. Bishop G5, bishop F8. Come on. I like black here, you know. He's not going to take after knight C6. So this is a little too reckless. Now queen C7. Now I don't know if this actually works. But Muleskinner, no, I lied. No, I didn't lie. Well, knight C6 had the benefit of preventing that queen C7 thing. But I didn't see this. The following. But this is getting worse now rather than better. We're getting less development. Now our bishop's on the back rank. We're unconnecting our rooks. We still haven't moved our knight off of B8. I don't know what other moves black has there, but there's definitely an argument for bishop F8, right? It keeps C5 protected, and it protects the king versus D8. Is there any other option? Yes. There are definite options. I mean, our queen here can defend laterally. So we can move the bishop, no? I mean, if you're going to make a random suggestion, bishop C6. That looks like it loses the exchange. Take, no. Let's see. Takes, no, sorry. Queen takes A7, rook takes A7, bishop takes C6, knight takes C6, knight B5, rook takes C4. This does not lose the exchange. And one additional benefit of rook D4 is that it attacks the knight on C4. But I don't like this. This is creeping me out. How are we going to get our pieces out? Maybe it's still okay. All right. So he goes to E5 now. It's true. Maybe it's not that bad, but please help me get untangled here. Now we play knight C6. Okay. Fuck, we're fine. Wow. That's the best he had? Queen E5? Is that really his only move? Damn. So this looks fine. Here. I just want to illustrate you guys. I tried this with Astrobate last week. But I just want to show you guys where the center is. This is the center. That is the center of the board. Those are the squares that you want to really like fight for control of. Because if you have absolute control of those squares, then you're probably better, barring everything else. But here Muleskinner goes off on the tangent over to the queen side. And the bishop d8 move, okay, it was a bit weird. And this move also is off sides, you know, to b4. I'm not crazy about it. You know, I want that knight going toward the center, not over to b4. I feel like, and I might be wrong, but I feel like Muleskinner, Tomas is his name, he's a little bit like paranoid about these queenside pawns. I mean, not without reason. Like, mind you, I think part of his play is kind of about like thinking about blockading those pawns. I mean, it's true, but this move to me, I don't know. You know, it doesn't feel right. We're still not developed fully. I would rather play like Bishop C7 and connect my rooks than Knight to B4. I feel like we're still not completely developed. To be honest, with Bishop on D8, I'm not comfortable. You know, I don't love it. It's an open position. This isn't like the freaking Roy Lopez or something. You know, it's a very open position. You're playing with your Bishop D8 and on D8 in a very open position. So I don't know, and I have a bad track record with Knight B4. I kill people with their Knight on B4 in the King's Indian all the time. This also feels like a cheapo, you know. Okay, we're threatening Knight to C2, but it's not a plan. You know, I mean, I understand this Knight is often like blocking our Bishop on the diagonal. Maybe you even want to consider Knight A5. I mean, if you're going to play Knight B4, I would give serious consideration to Knight A5. Because that actually threatens this fork with Knight B3. It might force an exchange of pieces. And actually, after Knight takes A5, Bishop takes A5, I kind of like our Snake Benoni, to be honest. I think that you're better here. And why are you better? Somebody? Anybody? Why is Black feeling like they're a little better in this position, even though the material's even? Anybody want to help me out with this fundamental principle? King safety? No. Acerbate? Fundamental principles. PP man. Oh, that's great. All right. I'll let you do the honors, Mr. Coffee. Acerbate. Name a fundamental principle of chess. I'll give you a hint. Can we get a fundamental principle of chess, please? Control of the center, right? Black has better control of the center than White does in this position. White only controls 1 out of 4 central squares. Black controls 3. You know, actually, with the Bishop on C7, it was even worse for White. But after this, we leave the E5 totally open. So I don't trust this move. It feels like a cheapo. Bishop E3. Bishop pairs are not a fundamental principle of chess. So we're going on these adventures with our pieces. Knight B4, Rook D4, Rook G4, F3. And meanwhile, White's making like easy moves. Very easy to find. Bishop E3. Now F3. A constructive move. I thought Acerbate was playing this game. It would be very typical for Acerbate. But Mulescanner, I thought, is a little more solid. Rook H4. Controlling the flanks. Bishop F2. White's been very solid. Totally inspired. You've been watching the stream and watching Acerbate play. Creative, but gotta very, very much focus on fundamentals. I don't like how strung out our pieces are here. That's a nice square White got there. Your knight's on B4, your rook's on H5, your bishop's on D8. I'm not seeing a whole lot of coordination. And 3 moves ago, our position was great. Our position was great. And now suddenly all of our pieces are on these like weird, spread out, random squares. And White's threatening tactics with like knight takes F7. So luckily, we have a way of covering F7 with our queen. But your opponent, who's happy now to trade pieces with a slight structural advantage, Bishop takes C6, knight takes C6. So he shifted from like attack to positional exploitation of a slight strategic advantage. Knight on CB5. And now we're a little worse. And now Queen E7. But I don't see a great square. I would play Queen A6, but I'm still concerned about Knight takes F7. You know, but you actually need to calculate that, because like after King takes, Queen takes E6 check, yeah, I think we're toast. It's toast. So you had to stay in contact with the F7 pawn, and D7 is an open file. You know, though you could cover it, this needs to be considered. The only thing protecting C5 is your rook, and if G4, you're going to have to go here. That's probably okay for now, but this is not as good a square. The queen is very inactive here. Now knight to C4. I don't know why he's playing knight to C4. Just a safe move. I would think that white has better, but he probably should secure his he should secure his A pawn. I would think like white would play B3 now. He's been playing very safe for a while. White went from what seemed like a wild attacking player to super safe. I guess once Rook D4 happened, he realized he was playing against a wild man, and he didn't know. Okay, knight C4, and now knight to D5. I feel like knight C4 takes some pressure off. He doesn't have a concrete threat. Maybe pushing the pawn, but it's probably not. Maybe he wants to put his other knight on D6, I don't know. But meanwhile, we're struggling to come up with a plan. Knight D5. And then here we see control of the center again. Very nice move, Queen E4 by white. Just squeezing the centralness. Squeezing the centralness of the position. Yeah, very good move. White is much better, but not winning yet. But we're suffering from discoordination. I was thinking maybe even rook H6. Scary, but maybe put the rook here later. I don't know what to do. I mean, G4 could happen any minute because our rook is out there. Maybe it's not a problem. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with my rook on H. Maybe rook F5 even here. With ideas of rook F4. Knight CB4. This is too much now. I mean, it's just pieces all over the place. Now this is an issue with this diagonal here. Never move the rook on A8 the whole game. Finally he moves it. White plays solid B3, and now finally, thank God, he moved the rook. A5 could become a problem. We have knight that can blockade on A6 now. So I was wondering if you should play rook B8, but yeah, this is probably right. If A5, we have knight A6. Not great, but yeah, they're going to be a problem. Like A5, knight A6, queen takes D5. But even there, we're okay. Our queen's defended by the bishop. Okay. So he doesn't want to commit. The guy's been very patient. He plays rook A D1 now. Very solid. And I know, man. Feels like you're playing a computer. I think we have to consider bishop C7. Why is this bishop never moved? Again, off of D8. The queen on E7 blocks the bishop on that diagonal. It should really be on E7 at this point. We had no other place to put our queen. And now there's all sorts of forks here. I think this might actually be recommended. We're attacking H2. You know, he'll probably take it. And then we take with the queen getting out of that stupid pin. And white is much better, but I mean, I don't know. I think like he can probably put up some resistance here. He's not up any material. Bishop g3. Queen, I don't know where. I don't know where to put the queen. Queen a7. I mean, clearly white is much, much better. Your knights are redundant. But after this, it's just getting more and more awkward, and I'm sure you're in time pressure. Queen f6, now g4. Now this guy, the way he's been playing and he plays g4, I'd say you're in a lot of trouble, because this is a committal move, and he's been playing very, very safely. Jesus. Yeah. g4, crushing. And very computer-like play by white, again. And now the point becomes clear, black is back rank mated. But actually, even with the bishop off of d8, you'd still get back rank mated, because he has double control of e8. Mule Skinner played like Astrobait in this game, seriously. Rook h3, attacking f3 but missing this tactic. Rook takes e5. It's a really nice shot. And so he has double tactic. All because your rook is cut off on the back rank. Rook takes, knight takes, queen takes d5. When it looks like black is probably lost. You found the following move, queen f4. I mean, I imagine king f1. I imagine white could even play king f1 on a white square. He turns into like a tactical god now with rook takes e6. Wow, bro. What's the guy sent upon loss on this game? He must have made a mistake. He must have made some mistake in the late opening, but because you were fine at some point. But I would say like overall, I'd make sure this guy wasn't going to the bathroom too much. Let's see. Check here, check here. Beautiful game by white. He's threatening you. Now you sack the queen. With queen takes f3, that doesn't save us. So you had to do this. Wow. You don't really have an immediate threat. Another really brutal move by white. Knight e5. h5, rook e8, check. Takes, check, king h7. Check, king g8, queen e8, check. King h7, queen h5, check. 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 Knight g6. Jesus, dude. That was just a massacre. Wow. This is brutal. White literally turned into an engine at some point. But I think that everything that happened to black in this game can be traced back to fundamental principles. Now I'd really like to put this in the engine and see what the computer analysis comes up with for sent upon loss for white. The vicious like last 20 moves of the game. But he definitely needs a bathroom monitor. So this is what I'm talking about. You know, it was like there was a point where you were doing pretty well when you got in knight c6. And then all of a sudden, after you let him off the hook, he turned into an engine at the end. But he did make two mistakes. There was a second chance for you, surprisingly. This last chance, after queen f4, I said king f1. So actually, it's interesting. I thought he would play king f1. By far the safest move. And white instead went on this adventure with rook takes e6, which I assumed was good, but it's actually not a clean move. So there's a problem here. Black might have still chances to hang on. Queen h2 check. King f1. And now Queen h1 check was a blunder and time pressure, no doubt. You should have done bishop h4 right away. Jesus. So you could have saved the game with this move because he was fancy with rook takes c6. But I think at that point Skinner was probably in a lot of time pressure knowing him. But I wouldn't look at it in terms of that so much as a lot of moves that were kind of against principle. And you've also got to know your own style. So I think this is a good learning opportunity for Skinner to change his approach there. I mean, he has a very, very good game. You know, it was up and down, up and down, up and down. You were much worse, you were equal. You were much, much worse, you were even slightly better. You were worse, you had a chance to save the game, you know, then again. All right, good game to analyze. I mean, a lot to be learned from this. Thanks, guys, for joining me. I'm out of here. I'll see you tomorrow in the afternoon at 1 p.m. CEST. Play a couple hours of Blitz, 1 to 3. I've got a chess club meeting tomorrow night, so I've got to leave. And then Sunday, I've got my team championship. So first round of the Hungarian team championship on Sunday morning. We've got to travel. So Simon might be a little bit late on Sunday. I'll see you guys then. Friday and Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Mr. Slow and Move 11 for your support of the stream. And thanks, everybody, for following. Thanks, Asterbay, for being a regular. Mr. Coffee, good to see you. And thanks for your help modding. All right, guys. Peace. I'll see you later. Jimmy Kimmel. Bye-bye.